Welcome to Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup. I'm your host, Jason Bland, and tonight we have guest Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops. We're just going to call her Dr. Margaret. It's a long name, but she is a psychic medium. She's known as the teacher of mediums, or the voice of Oneness. She's authored several books, I think about 15 books in the metaphysical world. Her latest book, I think, is Donald Trump, The Enigma of Society. She also wrote Journey into the Unknown and autobiography, My Journey into Oneness. We're going to talk about all kinds of things paranormal, I'm sure, with her, be it talking to spirits as a medium. I think she's had some alien encounters too. There's a lot of topics, and we will open up the phone lines later in the show. Especially, she's a teacher of mediums. I'd love to learn more about. If I've had my experiences. Is there a way to open it up? Do I want to open it up? We've talked about that a lot on the show. So if you have maybe some tips you want from her tonight, you can call in. Of course, we got a lot of the weird going on. It's 2020. It's always weird, right? We got a lot to get to in the World Wide Web of weird. We were gone for 2 weeks. I apologize. I had a work meeting that night, and yeah, that sucked. I really missed you guys. I need the show. 2020 anxiety. We're about ready to go in lockdowns again. I feel like, I don't know if that's how you feel. So let's take you away from all that anxiety and get rolling into the show. Welcome to another night of Paranormal Soup. As I said before, I'm your host, Jason Bland. Tonight's guest, Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops, is going to join us after the commercial break. The first time she's been on the show, it's going to be really interesting. People are like, what's it about? Well, I've been reading her bio, and I've been reading up on her and checking out her website. And there's a lot we can get into with Dr. Margaret. That's, I think, how I like to do it. I like when we first get a guest on to kind of cover all the weirdness, and there's a lot of weirdness to get to. All right, Jamie D, my beautiful co-host, is joining us as always. How you doing tonight, Jamie?
Doing great and really excited about tonight.
Yeah, especially since we were gone for 2 weeks. I missed you guys. This is my one time to hang out. So yeah, it was rough. We're gonna have some other dates. I have to be gone for work and that, but I try to do as many shows as possible. From St. Augustine, Florida, Rob Archery himself. Yep, that's you, Rob. How you doing?
Oh, cool. I'm doing good. Just back in the cockpit again.
Yeah.
Just in the nick of time.
Well, yeah. Like I said, I missed you guys. This is my release. I hope it's your release to everybody watching, everybody who shares the show. Thank you. Let people know there's a place to come to where we try. Sometimes politics stuff squeezes its little way through, but I try to keep it out. We don't want to talk about what's going on in 2020. It's a mess. We know that. We want to talk about the weird, the unusual, the things that say, reality is not what it seems. Like we were just talking before the show. How many of you out there are having like weird, vivid dreams? Like I was going a long time period here where I was not remembering a lot of my dreams lately. And it seems like this last week has been nothing. Every time I close my eyes, vivid dreams. I wonder how many of you are having that. It seems something's in the air. I don't know. But we got a lot of weird to get to. So let's go ahead and roll into the World Wide Web of Weird. Tonight on the World Wide Web of Weird, I thought I'd start off, we're just talking about the anxieties of 2020 and how bad, everybody's like, how bad this year is and all that, we at least thought we could say in 2020, we don't burn witches at the stake anymore. We're more open-minded. That doesn't happen anymore. I mean, I remember a conversation with my son Dean a year or two ago, and my mom, that's the wrong comment there. My wife said she was into witchcraft, admitted it to my son. He's like, they're burning you at the stake. She's like, they don't do that anymore. Well, guess what? We were all wrong. It's 2020. It's just, we're still burning witches at the stake. For those listening on the Paranormal Radio Network, we are a webcast. You can watch us on video on YouTube or Facebook where we're live. We'll show videos and pictures, and I will narrate as best as possible. As I said, unexplained mysteries here. Young woman set on fire over witchcraft fears. So yeah, we're still burning witches. That's just great. While witchcraft is generally uncommon in the modern age, those who do practice it can typically do so without fear of punishment and death. That was typical of societies hundreds of years ago. There are, however, parts of the world in which witchcraft is still heavily shunned. Such attitudes were brought into sharp focus recently when a 27-year-old woman in Durban, South Africa, was attacked, doused with petrol, and set on fire after being accused of being a witch. The local police department has since opened an attempted murder investigation. So she lived. A 27-year-old victim was allegedly assaulted and burnt with petrol by members of the community, said KZN police spokesman Captain Nakuli Gala. The victim was accused by the community of being involved in witchcraft. She was taken to the hospital for medical attention. The incident echoes the case of 3 women in KwaZulu-Natal who in 2018 were murdered because they were believed to be involved in witchcraft. All 3 died after being set on fire. So yeah, we're still burning witches. That's still happening. Can at least say by now, with all this stupid crap going on, we don't burn witches anymore. At least no. Still doing that.
The things of the past always come back. So I guess we're back to burning witches.
Yeah. Yep. And speaking of the past, this one historical restoration guy. He had one job. Yeah. It's like you had one job. That's all you had. It's from the Smithsonian magazine. Botched art restoration. Spain renders smiling statue unrecognizable. A disfigured carving of Planitia is the latest in a growing list of bungled conservation attempts by amateurs. And Spain is no stranger to botched art restoration. In 2012, a local parishioner disfigured update to Eliza Garcia Martinez's Echo Homo went viral under the moniker Monkey Jesus. In 2018, a woman in the village of Randaria was sharply criticized after she repainted a 15th century shrine in bright shades of chartreuse, pink, and blue. Given these and other instances of a failed restoration, news of public sculpture's recently transformation to a misshapen lump was unwelcome, but unsurprising, reports Spanish newspaper ABC. Prior to the bizarre reimaging of the sculpture, part of the blank facade in the city of Planitia, is that how you say it, depicted a smiling woman surrounded by cattle and livestock. Because the building was completed in 1923, the figured downturned features were understandably weathered, but they remained unrecognizable according to online news site Publico. Now the carving is essentially ruined, with some observers saying that it most closely resembles Donald Trump. See, you weren't the only ones that saw that. Or Mr. Potato Head. I was going for Mr. Potato Head. Or I don't know. Local painter Antonio Guzman Capel, who uploaded photos of the artistic travesty to Facebook after spotting it last week, described the restoration writing, "It looks like a cartoon character."
Well, I hope, it does kind of remind me of Trump, and whoever this artist is, in Trump fashion, he should say, "You're fired."
Right? I mean,
there's no excuse for that.
This is like a waiter that doesn't write down your order. I think the artist didn't take a picture of it before he did it. Look at it. I do it by memory.
Sucks.
Oh, I forgot. I was thinking of Mr. Potato Head. Oh, I mean, it looks like something out of a claymation or something. They put on a little nose and mouth and just pop a little 2 eyes in there.
Did they not look at this portfolio?
You have one job.
Yeah.
All right. This one I don't have. It's from Phantom Monsters. There's no information on this. But I find it interesting. I'd love to know more. Some of these are old. This is November 1st. Remember, we didn't have a show last week, so some of these we didn't get to. Sasquatch has been found on Unkpurridge National Forest, Colorado. This is on Google. Has a Sasquatch been found in Unkpurridge, as you said, National Forest, Colorado? The Google map coordinates are 38 by 60 or 38 degrees, 16, 24.2 north, 108. 32.8 west. Check it out and tell us what you think. So this is like a Google image capture. I mean, it looks like, I don't think that's a bear. I mean, it looks like something, it could be a bear. Maybe we're just mistaken, but it looks like something on 2 legs that has a lot of fur. I just happened to catch it.
Yeah.
I find this one interesting. I wish there was more to this, but it's just somebody finds a Google image of this. You can go check it out yourself.
If that's a bear, he's got good posture.
It does not look like a bear. It looks like it's walking. I mean, eventually, you think they keep taking all these satellite images, they would catch Bigfoot.
You would think.
Eventually, he does come out in the open sometimes because people have seen him. I don't know.
Comes after them Slim Jims.
Snap it to a Slim Jim.
No. Snap it to a Slim Jim.
That's what he's out. He's out for the Slim Jims. But I don't know. I think it's interesting. Eventually, we got satellite images. We got people with drones. We got to eventually find this guy, right? I mean, eventually technology should help out in that at some point. I don't think.
I know my drone takes a lot better pictures than that.
Well, that's from a satellite. It's way up there.
Well, that's true. I'll give him that.
I think that's pretty good for a satellite, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Oh, well, pre-warning, I'm going to say this now since my lights just flickered. If we lose connection, it's because I am in a very windy area right now. It's really windy here. It's real bad. So I'm hoping I don't lose power or internet, what's happened in my county in some places. So hopefully not. We're still with you. I hope not. Should have warned my guest of that when I talked to her earlier. Okay, let's move on. All right, next one. This is from one of my favorite YouTube channels, Hidden Underbelly. And then from Tim Binnell from Coast to Coast AM wrote about it. A curious piece of security camera footage from a home in Wisconsin appears to show some kind of entity with strange hands briefly peering out from behind a door before disappearing. The video, which was reportedly recorded earlier this month in Milwaukee resident, was posted to Reddit this past weekend by the petrified homeowner, who explained that only she and her baby were in the house at the time of the incident and said she cannot account for the mysterious visitor. The video is a puzzling form, which some have linked to the hand bearing tentacles. You'll see this. It is weird. There is this kind of black wispy tentacle thing that follows the person. It's weird. I don't know. Other observers, however, offered what may actually far more unsettling theory, arguing that the spirit is actually a home intruder and that their tentacled hand is really a gun. This, they say, would explain the door shutting and posit that the person probably exited through a window, like this was a home break-in. For the mother, either way, terrified. Poor woman. Poor woman. Okay, go ahead and play it. Poor woman. Ghost or I'd rather it be a ghost than the home intruder, to be honest.
Did it go full screen?
No, it didn't. It didn't.
Crappers.
It's about as full screen as we're going to get on it. Hidden Underbelly 2.0. That's where you can watch it. It's one of my favorite YouTube channels. Has a lot of good stuff. They have this video. I shortened it and zoomed in some more than they did. See that? See that? The black tentacles there?
Yeah.
I mean, I can put it up more full screen up for everybody here. See if you can go back to that.
It's pretty weird. It kind of does look like a person, but
there was a sound of a door slamming. Yeah, you hear a door, I think. See, there's a wisp, it follows them. Watch. like they said, it could have been a gun or something. But you see how wispy that is as it follows him?
Yeah.
Or it, whatever it is.
Pretty weird.
Yeah. Either way, I feel so bad for. Yeah, I feel so bad for the mother that, you know, how you sleep in that home now? Bar the windows. But then, you know, is it a ghost or is it a person? I don't know. But if it was a person, there should be some sign of entry or break-in. I would hope she locks her doors at night. I'm sure she does now.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they obviously more. This is what's going to be great about the future of the paranormal. I will say this is that everybody's getting Ring cameras now. They're putting them all over their house. It's annoying because everybody sees a bunch of dust and like, look at the ghost, the aliens. No, it's dust. But there is stuff like this that's coming out that is real, you know. I'll even argue that the TikTok videos are, you know, there's a lot of people trying to fake stuff on there, but there is some genuine stuff, you know, maybe. It's
that day and age where you can't tell what's genuine anymore, though.
No, not at all. But, you know, with all the Ring cameras, we're going to get a lot more. Yeah. All right, let's move on. We got what are we on? Number 4? We're not on number 5, are we?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, we are. Okay. Jeez. Wow.
Time warp.
All right. So UFC Diego Sanchez was visited by UFOs. This is from TMZ.com this week. They flew right up to him. UFC meet UFO. It was also a close encounter for the third kind for Diego Sanchez this week. The UFC star is convinced he was visited by aliens on Wednesday night. Do you guys notice how many of these lately celebrity UFO sighting articles are out there?
They've been buying weed wax from the guy at the taco truck, man.
Getting weed wax from the guy at the taco shack. The truck parked out. There's a Miley Cyrus story. Check it out, people. But you know, did you notice there seems to be a lot more of these? Why? It's like coordinated. I don't know. Yeah. All right. No, this ain't no joke. 38-year-old Sanchez, who's been fighting in the UFC since 2005, described the encounter at his home in New Mexico late Wednesday evening. I was doing energy work, here you go, on my patio as a UFO flew right up on me, Sanchez said on Twitter. I called for my daughter, quick. She watched this thing hover only hundreds of feet away. Albuquerque is a trip sightings are regularly here. How's he saying this? Albuquerque is trip sightings are regularly here, but this SHIT was contact night. Sanchez added, it was obvious he was watching me. Unclear if Diego snapped any pics or shot any video. Sanchez famously appeared on season 1 of Ultimate Fighter. Who cares? He saw a UFO, but it sounds like he's like into energy work. Maybe it recognizes energy work. It came to him. Not seriously.
Seriously.
You know, he's like, sounds like he's into this kind of stuff. Maybe he was like telepathy, calling the aliens to him. But I'm saying it does seem like there's all these celebrity UFO stories now.
Yeah. But like, why is it unclear if he has footage or not? Like, did they have?
Because he didn't say. This is all from his Twitter post. He didn't post any videos or photos. Nobody's interviewed him on it. It's just what he posted on Twitter. But do you see these stories? These articles are more and more like this famous person. Like, we're being conditioned, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, because you know that going back where they're saying a lot of celebrities are like, you know, alien, the eye glitches and everything that they were talking about a few years back.
Oh, you're talking about the videos where like they're a reptilian. Yeah. You know, where like it's called the bad video. It glitches and botches. It's not, they're not reptilians. I'm sorry.
I know they're not reptilian.
It looks creepy though. You see some of these like when the video distorts and it, you know, it blocks people. That like makes them. It does look like something out of, you know, like They Live, like or
they had the Hillary
sunglasses on.
Yeah, it does make you want to put the sunglasses on. You know, it really does. It's what
I have come here
had to chew bubblegum. Roddy Piper, rest in peace.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, well, we might need to kick some butt because if we are having celebrities, I mean, celebrities are important people. They really, you know everything, right? So they're all seeing UFOs. So this is maybe why this Popular Mechanics article is the Air Force is putting death rays on fighter jets. We might need to be doing this if there's a real UFO threat, right? Yes, death rays. You heard that right. Lasers will help other fighters stay alive with flying while flying the deadly skies. U.S. Air Force envisions placing laser weapons. Lasers. Like I just see like evil. They put lasers on the jets. Like put lasers on the dolphins. No, the service is banking on a defense contractor shield laser system, a pod-mounted laser that will protect fighters from incoming missiles or aliens. The system will likely be used at first anyway to protect older fighters that can't take advantage of stealth to hide from the enemy. The system's called SHIELD, or Self-Protect High Energy Laser Demonstrator. It's just a shield. It's just a shield. It's not going to be used to shoot at anybody.
Nothing to see.
Right? Nothing to see here. The mounted laser developed by Lockheed Martin on behalf of the Air Force Research Laboratory. Mounted on the fuselage or wing of a jet fighter, a shield could shoot down incoming air-to-air, surface-to-air missiles. So that'd be great to protect our fighters. But I'm telling you, this is like next thing is no other. And we're going to put one on the nose and it's going to shoot aliens. You can find this article at Popular Mechanics. I don't want to run out of time on this totally, but there's one other point to this I want to make. It says shields will likely go on fighters unable to hide from their adversaries, such as the Air Force's F-15E, F-15C. So they're going to try to put this on older jets, like we're trying to upgrade quick here, maybe. Trading the ability to carry one missile or bomb for a laser that could shoot down many incoming missiles is no brainer. Yeah, of course. But when they start putting these things on like drones, that's what's going to worry me. What is that noise?
It's laser beams, man.
Oh, geez. I mean, there's talking about like they keep talking about it's going to shoot down incoming air missiles. I'm like, yeah, but you're going to make that thing so it can like shoot other air things down too. Like planes. People running. That's what's coming.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if there are UFOs, and then they're a threat, we need to like really up our ante. Yeah. I mean, what a few weeks ago, a month ago, Trump was like talking about we got the best military ever. When he started talking about aliens, it's like that's not where I want you to go with this.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get to this last article here. Unexplained Mysteries has this. Can we still land humans on the moon by 2024? Because we keep hearing about we're going to go back to the moon, and I'm a big advocate for it because I want to know what's on the moon. Why did it take so long to go back? We need to go to the moon. Back in 2009, I'm actually more excited about going back to the moon than us ever going to Mars. Back in 2019, Vice President Mike Pence announced the U.S. astronauts would walk on the lunar surface within a mere 5 years through NASA's ongoing Artemis program. Since the end of Apollo 11, we forged incredible breakthroughs in our technology that have allowed us to go further, more safely in space than ever before, he said. We have technology to go to the moon and renew Americans' leadership in human space exploration. Such as the United States was the first nation to reach the moon in the 20th century, so too will we be the first nation to return astronauts to the moon in the 21st century. But with 2024 deadline fast approaching, just how viable is that, and can it still be accomplished? According to a recent audit report by NASA's Office of Inspector General, the agency will be hard-pressed to put humans on the moon any date close to the ambitious goal without strong, consistent, sustained leadership from the president, as well as stable and timely funding. Really, we just need funding. Plans to place a lunar gateway outpost in orbit around the moon are also looking unlikely to come to fruition in time for the mission due to further scheduled delays and cost increase. It's also been speculated that the upcoming U.S. President Joe Biden could reprioritize climate change research, and this is what I'm going to get at. So why is NASA and the future space missions are not going to be NASA? Okay, it's too many politics anymore. I'll tell you what, Obama administration, they cut NASA's budget. I'm pretty much sure that's what's going to happen when Biden comes in. All that going to the moon stuff. Yeah, no, it's going to be Elon Musk. It's going to be Virgin Airlines or whatever they're doing it. SpaceX and Amazon. It's going to be all these corporations going up there. Kiss goodbye, say goodbye, because it's all about money. It's always about money.
Whoever goes, I hope they take their like iPhone 12 with them and they're able to actually get some good pictures.
Well, that might be the good thing. See, our government goes up there, they can keep things hush hush, brainwash the astronauts, and they come back and do a really depressing press conference like it happened back in '69.
Yeah.
Or they can do all kinds of things to hide it up. Is Elon Musk going to do that? I mean, is he going to cover it up for him? I don't think so. Maybe he'll be forced to. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying. I want to see us go back to the moon, but I'm not. It's not going to happen with NASA. Too much politics is swinging back and forth, and it's always about the money. Even when the president or administration says you are going to go to the moon, then they don't want to come up with the money.
Yeah,
NASA actually has a very small budget compared to a lot of other things. Used to have a lot of money, so the reason we never gone back to the moon is they didn't want to pay any more money for it. It was so expensive, So I want to go back to the moon. We got to do that before we go to Mars. I was really excited about the 2024 thing, but my doubts are it's going to happen now, anytime soon. Not by NASA.
No.
the fun, we got to be worried about the climate, but, and if we screw that up enough, we should also be worried. This is my number one thing. Everybody wants the climate. We got to protect the earth. I'm right there with you. You know why? That's why NASA is important to protect the earth, because none of that matters. Climate change or nothing. When a big asteroid comes this way and we can't send Ben Affleck and Bruce Willis up there to stop it.
Exactly.
Okay. All that stuff doesn't matter anymore. And that is a mathematical probability. It's not if it'll happen. It's just when it will happen.
It's going to get hot real quick.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe really cold after, we have a nuclear winter kind of thing from the asteroid, up in our atmosphere, debris and all that. That's what's important. I'm all about climate change, protecting the earth, but we need to fund. I am all for federal funding for NASA. I want to get us up there so we can put lasers on the moon or something and shoot these things down. I don't know. We're putting lasers on jets. Pew, pew, we need, pew, 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 pew. We need lasers up there to pew, 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 all the asteroids that might come to us. It's just a mathematical probability. It's going to happen. It happened in the past. It'll happen again. That I'm all for. You want to worry about the Earth. You want to protect Mother Earth. There you go. We need to put a big laser out in space. We need to make a big gun. To shoot it down, or get Bruce Willis to go up there and sacrifice himself or something like that. I don't know. Should have sacrificed Ben Affleck, but again, don't probably see any of that happening. Like I said, nobody ever cares about NASA. Even if one party, I'm not getting in politics, but one party's like, we're going to fund NASA, then they don't. Yeah. The other party's like, climate change.
Yeah.
We got to save the Earth first. I'm like, okay, that's great. But, there's that thing called probability of an asteroid coming at us. We got Apophis in 2029. Just things we might want to just give a chunk of change over to NASA. I don't know. Just saying. But that's it for the World Wide Web of Weird. Our guest tonight, if I can find my mouse here, Dr. Roger Van Coops. We're going to talk about all kinds of weird, strange, unusual woman with a lot of life experience. And a medium and a teacher of mediums, as I've been told. So maybe we get some advice from you. I know I have a number of people in my chat room that listen to the show that have mediumistic abilities or, can communicate with the dead. Maybe we'll get some tips from her. You can call in later in the show. We'll do that after the second commercial break as usual, but we will be back later after this short commercial break with Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops. Join us in.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Since 1948, Fate magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hobson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
encounters of the second kind, physical evidence of a UFO. Close encounters of the third kind, contact. From Steven Spielberg, the director of Jaws, comes one of the most ambitious and unusual films ever made. And what you will see has never been seen before. It's a cosmic mystery crossing what many scientists believe will be the next threshold of human experience. It's called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It begins in an Indiana town and leads to one inescapable conclusion. We are not alone. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Certificate A, now showing at the Odeon, Leicester Square.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
The international chart-topping Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest has been described as terrifyingly real, a must-read, shocking and chilling brilliance, genuinely worrying, utterly frightening. Don't read before bed. Described as one of the spookiest writers out there, best-selling author G.L. Davies presents Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest, the true paranormal account that is shocking the world. Dare you enter? Dare you read? Haunted Horror of Haverfordwest is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, and wherever books are sold. Pray you never have to live there.
Do you like rock and roll? Do you enjoy a good story? Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It will not only entertain you, but intrigue you. What is it about? Well, Thomas is searching for his bandmate and friend in heaven, and in spirit has helped pen this story. He meets an old friend and famous new ones on his afterlife voyage. Midwest Book Review said, Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is a book inspired by Badfinger. It's a quirky story by Joyce S. Isaacson and is unique, original, and deftly crafted metaphysical novel that showcases the author's genuine flair for character and narrative-driven entertainment that is simply riveting from first page to last. Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy, is now available on pennantpublication.com, amazon.com in paperback and hardcover, and also on Kindle Unlimited. So check it out now. Wish You Were Here, a rock fantasy.
Switch to DCS ranging.
240, nominal to profile.
We're in the pipe. 5 by 5.
Tonight on Paranormal Soup, our guest is Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops. Dr. Margaret is known as the voice of Oneness. She is the teacher of mediums, has trained over 20,000 students internationally over the past 20 years. She founded the Sumaris, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, Psychic Education Center in Essex, England, and has evolved to establishing Sumaris Education Center and Clinic in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. Her focus is on healing the whole person with her 7 proprietary therapies, I'm totally butchering that remove stress, fear, pain, alongside with resolving emotional and mental issues that seem impossible to heal. Dr. Margaret has been awarded 2 Ph.D. degrees for her advanced work in clinical hypnotherapy and integrated medicine. Her credits include her pioneer work and research in the paranormal, psychology, psychiatry, crystal therapies, hypnosis, religious studies, and her accomplishments as an accurate counselor and usually adept psychic medium, unusually. Dr. Margaret is certified clinical hypnotherapist, ordained minister, counselor, is currently serving as elected director of education in the Universal Christ Church School of Spiritualism. She has developed a strong internet presence, including radio and TV shows, videos on YouTube, and websites with a shopping cart. Her national schedule includes demonstrations, lectures, workshops, courses, and seminars. I welcome her as her first time on the show. We have a lot of topics to get into. We will open up the phone lines later in the show for your questions, but let's go ahead and get to our guest. Now, I think we got her here. Yes, let me see. How you doing tonight, Dr. Margaret? Oh, let me unmute you. There we go. Hold on. Oop. Oh, you got to unmute you. You're muted. You got to do it. Nope, you're still muted. Hit the unmute button. It's being weird. Okay. Here we go. There we are. There we go.
Yeah. Hi.
Welcome to the show. You are unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm very happy that I'm here. I love to be able to talk to people too. So I hope some people will call in with some questions.
We usually have some really good callers. I have a great chat room too. We can show their comments up on the screen here too. We can always take it from the chat room as well. But usually I do get people that call in, and they're great callers with great questions. My question is to you, as is your first time on the show, is how did you become the teacher of mediums? Like, how did you get into mediumship? All this whole area of the paranormal. Like, what led you down this path in your life?
Being born. Actually, can I show you my book for a minute? It sounds like I'm pitching, but I'm not. I want you to see the picture. Yeah. This it took a lot of courage to write this book. You see this wiggly, wobbly
Indiana Jones Bridge?
Yeah. Okay. That is typical of my life. Okay.
Wow.
And the reason I'm showing you that is it was not an easy journey. I was born as a V-1 bomb flew over the top of the hospital and landed across the street. And British roads are very narrow. It's like 2 lanes, you know. And it wiped out 3 complexes of homes, you know, apartment buildings.
This is during the Blitz?
And according to my mother, after it was all over, they'd heard a baby being born during this explosion.
Wow.
And so they came down and held me, and they were trembling because of the strain of seeing all the blood and gore, whatever. And apparently when they held me, they went from this trembling into this calm, serene space, and told her I was special. And she told me that when I was about 15. And the reason she told me that was because she had been a ballet dancer and she'd stubbed her toe, and her father was an osteopath, and he told her it was just, you know, a bruise, but actually she chipped a bone, and as a result of everything, it festered, and she had monopneumo something, arthritic, rheumatoid, something, went on forever. And they did a surgery where they took out her tarsals and put her toes back on. So she went from a size 7 to 5 when I was 7 years old. So by the time I'd worked on the my father's army, you know, after they came back from the war, I was when did it work? No, 3. They used to take me up to the meetings, and I'd sit on their laps and I'd watch their auras go from yucky colors to pearlesque colors. And so by the time I was 7, I was made an honorary member of the regiment. It's all in that book, so I didn't want to make a big deal about it. But
that's really interesting.
Well, you know, it was just my way. I'd hear the voice of God. It's all in the book, you know, and told me that I was a child that would know great suffering and help those that are suffering. And I believed it. And I asked the voice of God, which was all around, sound around. It didn't have that in those days. All we have is little radios, And I was like looking up at the ceiling like this because the light came on, and I heard it, and it said, you are a child, you will know great suffering, you will help those who are suffering, and so on. And I said, who is this? And I'm scared because I don't know where it's coming from. And he says, I am the voice of God, I am the oneness. And it's written in the book, I'm giving you a short version of it. And I said, what's that? And he said, all that is, I'm all that is, the oneness. And I went back into the room with my mother without the thing she'd asked me to fetch, and saw her foot. It seemed to suddenly be as big as me, and I thought, that's healing. Wow. And so I actually healed her foot. No, I'm going to all the story now. Got her to actually be able to bend the foot where it'd been locked. And
you were what, 7? You said 7 years old?
Well, I started healing her foot. At that age, I was 4 and a half. Oh. My sister had just been born. That's why I know when it was. And we're 4.5 years between us.
Wow.
And so basically, my father knew, and, with everything that happened, it's in the book. And I was also having alien encounters. So I had too many things going on, really, to, I'd run to my mother and say, where's my little friend gone? And she asked me what I'm talking about, and I'd say the little blue boy in the dressing gown or something. And she admitted years later that she saw it at the foot of her bed. And I do know now that they have been watching us for generations, hundreds of generations, and they evolve as well as we do. I've spent a lot of time on the ship. So anyway, I had to keep it all secret. So my pathway, this rickety bridge, was all about, I can't say this, I can't do that. Right. I have to be careful, because one little slip up, like if I'd mentioned aliens back in those days, I would have been told I was a stupid idiot,
Or locked up in an insane asylum. I mean, do you think how many people were locked up? They've had encounters that just didn't keep quiet about it, and they locked them away for it. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different age. This the way people can just say or talk about whatever now with the internet, and people can get it all out there. Well, that wasn't how it was, and people had to keep the stuff locked in. So I had to really shape you as a person to have all these experiences and not be able to talk about it or share it with a lot of people. How did that affect you?
Well, actually, I was pretty nervous, a lot of the times, because not only was I dealing with that, but I was dealing with people who died during the war because they'd been blitzed, Yeah. And they would appear in my room, looking like mummies with bandages on and blood all over it. And I'd go running to my mother and I'd say things like, there's monsters in my room. And of course, and then I've had times when I'd say there's a face in the wall, and she'd put her hand through like this, and the hand's going through the face. And she'd say, there's nothing here, And then when my father came back from the war, he came while I was sleeping, of course. So in the morning, it's my habit to run into my mother. And as I came out into the hallway before going into the bedroom, I could see all these flames and horrible things and hear the sounds and the yells of war people. And I remember it so clearly, standing as high as the doorknob, that's how tall I was, and waiting and breathing because I was scared to go in, but at the same time I wanted to go in because I thought my mother's in there,
Yeah.
And then I went in, and my father was closer to the door, and I'm looking at him and I'm feeling all the horror of the war. And fast forward on that, years later, I was about 8 or 9. I was sitting at his feet, holding his hands while he's sitting in his father chair,
Yeah.
And he suddenly went into the stories of everything he went through. And he was a very emotional man and very unstable because so many men were war torn. Yeah. But I didn't understand that. I mean, stiff upper lip and all that,
Yeah.
So I'm holding him, and then he starts talking about all this. And I am completely one with him. I'm visually seeing, for example, the children in Italy going into the dustbins and eating worms, maggots. that he saw when he had a tank battalion under him because he was a major, and they had orders to set the fire thing on the field where all the Germans were hidden, and they're coming out and they're told no prisoners, and the horror of him having to give the order and that. And I'm seeing it as though I'm standing there in his body, looking at it. And so that's how I lived. I was used to having so much clarification on what people were thinking and feeling. And so as a child, there was a part of me that was full of joy because I had the ascended masters. I mean, I had Jesus and Melchizedek and Siddhartha Buddha. I didn't know who they were then, but, I had all these great sages with me. And at the same time, I had ghoulies and goblins and whatever. I saw many fairies. I've seen all sorts of things, had Socrates with me, Plato. So I didn't know that I was so lucky. It was just like they're there and they're teaching me and they're telling me something as I grew up.
Was your thought that all kids have Socrates and Buddha as their
spiritual
guide? I mean, they're saying but you didn't understand how the world worked at that age. You're seeing it. You think everybody else is, right? I mean, is that the perception then when you're like 7 seeing this stuff?
Well, no, because I realized when I told people what I was seeing, they looked at me like, what?
Oh, yeah.
And then my friends that I had weren't that many, but we used to play mothers and fathers and doctors and nurses. And somehow I always ended up being the key person who was doing the work. And my friends, we tuck them up in blankets and play out in the yard and stuff. And I'd put stones on them. And I'd watch them fall asleep, and then I'd see all their auras and, watch their pearlescent colors because they were younger and they didn't have, a lot of anger and stuff. So I started to make associations between what I was seeing and listening to spirit guides, as I called them, angels or friends or something. And I'd tell my mother, and she'd always say, you have a vivid imagination, Margaret.
I've heard that a lot as a kid too.
Yeah. So that was my journey as a child. Yeah.
So, well, it sounds like you, from the moment you were born, you were different. You had a perception that is beyond. I mean, I think a lot of little kids. I mean, I've had a lot of experience. This is why I do the show, is because from my earliest memories, I've had weird paranormal experiences. Talking to probably my unborn sister when I was little, that freaked out my mom. Seeing a green floating head, screaming at me. I had all kinds of experiences that made me decide at a very early age that the reality is not what everybody's been telling me it is. There's a lot more to it. But I think that's just what kids do. Our eyes are open. But it seems like with you was really open, like from the get-go, and you never forgot it. Most people forget it.
Actually, you're the generation where you have the extra DNA. I wrote a book called Discover Your Baby Spirit, where I explain, that we have the hero child, then we have the star child, then people were writing about this years ago.
Yeah.
And then we had the indigo, and then we had the crystal, and now we have the liquid crystal. And the liquid crystal children are coming in now. When I wrote the book, we were talking about one extra DNA. And when I finally finished it and closed it, then Spirit said to me, you have the extra DNA, the extra one aspect. You are a liquid crystal child. So I waited all those years before they explained to me that I was different. And then now, though, the children are coming in with 2 and 3, and the talent. I mean, it's just amazing when you see them singing and dancing. They come on, they're like 6, and they sing like they're 26.
Or playing the violin or cello, like they're masters of it. That's we've talked about. We've done a lot of shows on reincarnation and on this aspect of these idiot, savants that are these kids that are able to just pick up instruments and just play like they're Mozart or something. It's incredible.
Yeah, back in the days when the late night show was on, there was a kiddie on. He was 4. He was sitting on the chair with David, and he was swinging his legs around. And he asked him, like, how did you know about dinosaurs? Because he knew all the names and everything, you know. And he said, did your mum and dad tell you? And he said, no, I just know. And he said, well, how did you know? He said, well, I just read about it. So he said, oh, you can read? He said, yes, I've been reading since I was 2. And that was sort of an eye-opener for me, because that was years ago. I often wonder who that child is. He must be an adult now, you know. But
paleontologist, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
But yeah, it does seem like we are getting these kids that have some kind of an awareness or abilities. You know, I have two boys of my own. I don't think they're savants at anything totally yet. I do think my youngest, there's something about him that's definitely different than my first when it comes to just the way his personality is. Like from the moment he was born, he was smiling. But my oldest son, you know, if anything, that kid was born to basically be a part of this technological world. That's what I'm seeing, is these kids are like born to technology, and that's kind of scary to me, because I'm, you know, like the whole transhumanist movement and everything. But boy, they pick up the electronics and are right on it. I'm like, man, you try teaching this to somebody that's like 20 years, you know, older than me, forget about it. You know, they just pick it up like they know it. My 4-year-old even.
Yeah.
But you know, that's weird. It's like they've said DNA, scientists have admitted that DNA from somebody who was 3,000 years ago is about 7% different. You know, and is our DNA being affected by technology too, is what I wonder.
Well, I wrote another book. I've written 17 books. But when I have to say, first of all, that I don't write, we write. I'm like a woman possessed when I'm writing. I can get a book done in 4 or 5 days. Yes, we are united as one, and I don't have separation. I'm not hearing voices. I'm not being dictated to. I just have this tremendous amount of knowledge, and here I am typing away. And so that's this book, Donald Trump, The Enigma of Society. Okay. And if you see here, there's his ancestors. Okay. And when Spirit came to me and they said, they wanted me to write this book, I'm not political. I'm putting my foot down. And they left me alone for 2 weeks, and then they came back and they said, "This is not about politics. This is about his ancestors." And I'm like, "Well, yes, but you know," they left me another couple of days, and they came back and said, "Please, we really want you to write this." And so I gave way, and I wrote. The intro says Margaret's not taking any responsibility for what's going to come out here, because I didn't want to, you know, have anybody come back on me on it. And so I started typing everything that, you know, after that. And Archangel Haniel was the one that was guiding me with this one. He's always there, always has been. He protected me when the bombs went off.
I have to ask, why do you think they, and I'm not trying to be political at all either. We don't do that on this show. I have to ask, why would they want this president, this person, this book to be written about him?
Because when you read it, and I'm reading in retrospect occasionally, because I'm not thinking when I'm writing, I'm just doing it. You know? That you can really see the hereditary aspects of his family. Now, I didn't just do his mom and dad. It goes back to the 1700s, and I had to, you know, people said, "Where's your research?" I said, "The only place I knew, Wikipedia," you know, and there it was, you know, waiting for me. And so I had all his ancestors on both sides, mother and father, going back, and their mother and father, and their mother and father, and then on the other side, their mother and father, and so on. And it became I got all that down, and then they said, "Now do research," you know, and that's like, what? And so I had to make a list of the names because it was so confusing. And then I had to do a crossways of all their soul structure coding of each individual. And so, and the soul structure coding, by the way, is what we bring in with us in the spirit so that we stay focused on our pathway and do what we come to do. And so it's very interesting for me as I'm seeing, you know, I'm writing them out, what their names are, and then they're telling me each one's individual soul coding. So I've written that down so I understand. And then they put it all together through me writing. And so what the point of the book was for people to see how we are all programmed through our ancestors to arrive at a given time and do what we're here to do. And Donald was, for example, is one part where his grandfather he was German, and he came to America, made his fortune, and wanted to go back and be a German again. And he tried everything possible to stay there, but they kicked him out. And had they have not kicked him out, Donald would never have been president. So here's an example, you see, of how someone is meant to be where they're meant to be. And what they're doing is what they're meant to do. Now, it's not about whether they're meant to do it in a good or a bad way. It's about circumstances, situations, vibrations, transformation. Yeah, it's destiny, but there's no, how can I say this? There's no, you have to do it in a good way or a bad way, because the personality you live in this life is how you take whatever the triggers are from your ancestors and the programming that you come in with your soul vibration, in how you develop with the influences in the RNA from the people you encounter, including your family. Yeah.
So no, I find this really fascinating. So like for Donald Trump, for where he is, his life or soul purpose is also tied on not just into what, like we were looking to his past lives, or we could see that it has to do also with his ancestry, the DNA that brought that all together.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you read the book and you see the personalities of the women and the men and so on, you can actually see how that is in the way he speaks and talks and does things. And again, in the overview, it's not about whether he's a good president or a bad president. It's about he's here to bring about the change that we need, along with the COVID and along with all the other people who are part of whatever's going on. It's a collective unity of change. And change doesn't come easily to us because we like to hold on to history and validate. And I did a show on my own show. I have a show, Journey into an Unknown World. It's a radio show. It's just me talking with spirit. And I did a 2-hour special on the Piscean Age, the ending of the Piscean Age. Now, it's 3,500 years. It's a great Piscean Age. And when the Beatles, in fact, I knew them when they were 16.
Oh, wow.
And John, they used to practice with Brian in my friend's sister's garage that they were married. Brian and he asked me, were they going to be famous? And I said, oh, yeah, you're going to do fine. I didn't know how famous. I mean, we're all 16, famous. What do we know? But, I don't even know if Paul remembers me, but I do remember John saying, I want to write. Do you think I'll write songs? I said, oh, you will. And when I saw he'd written Imagine, I got a
huge John Lennon fan. I'm a huge John Lennon fan. Yeah. Working Class Hero is my jam. Yeah, huge John Lennon fan. Wow, that is amazing. So, you're my second guest that met and knew John Lennon. That, of course, you're the first one before he was famous to met him.
He wasn't famous. He was 16. What did they, they're jamming away, making like rackets.
That's pretty incredible. You met the Beatles before they were the Beatles. That's pretty incredible.
They used to come down from the middle of the country, Birmingham, I think it was, or Manchester, or somewhere up there with the accent, and they come down to London. And of course, in those days, I spoke Queen's English. You probably think I sound English now, but I spoke like the Queen. My ancestry goes back to royalty on both sides. And so I grew up with a snobbish father and so on. He wanted me to go to finishing school. Can you believe that?
Oh, God.
I didn't want any of that. And when I told him I wanted to be a nurse, he said, oh, that's a skivvish job. You can't do that. But you know what? That man ended up being my student. He followed me all through my life. He read every one of my books.
Your father?
He lived to be 100. Yep.
Wow.
And where he was, class. When you're born in India and you've got class and you've got royalty as mates. And on my mother's side, my grandfather used to play with Edward V chess.
Oh, God.
And I used to go to the palace, and here after the wars ended, nobody's got any money. uh, trying to live like we're still upper class, and I'm born to, I don't see class, I see people. So, you know, I was told you can't play with this person, and I would sneak out and play.
Go sneak out and hang out with the Beatles. Can you put to rest the whole Paul is dead theory? Since you knew him?
No,
have you ever heard that?
Seriously, though, you know, I've seen many people famous. It's in the book. Those that I could mention, obviously, you know, those are still alive. I don't talk about their world with me. It's private. But,
Gotcha.
you know, the ones like the Tsar, you know, of Iran and places like that, I was with him.
Tsar Iran?
Yeah. Is that the right way
Wow.
you say it? Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Princess Margaret, you know, people like that.
Holy God.
Yeah.
That's a big name list there. That's a lot to entangle. So your life is you feel like your life has directed you to these people. Like, you talk about your ancestry and that, and your soul coding. Do you think that has drawn these people to you?
I think that, well, I don't think I know that the oneness works with me. That rickety bridge, you know, was my pathway, and I can tell you, I fell many times into misery and pain and suffering. I had 2 marriages that were abusive, and you know, but it taught me to understand how people in the world were abusive. When I've been to India and Egypt and, you know, Japan, all these different countries where I've taught, I've known their suffering, their pain because of my own. And you know, I've, like you said, 20,000 people. I wouldn't have known that in Japan if they weren't keeping records. You know, 20 years of going there and 1,000 a year. I didn't even know they were keeping the records because I was going 2 and 3 times a year. Apparently, according to my spirit guides, once I used to do the mind, body, and spirit. I was a keynote speaker in England, which is what got me over to America, actually. We had that going on in the 60s, you know, in England.
Yeah.
And I was doing tarot card readings in those days because that's what people are interested in. And I was just shuffling them and doing something, and Spirit said to me, with this particular pack, this is your 1,000th reading with this pack. And I was like, really? You know,
Wasn't keeping track, right?
readings a day. Yeah, 25 a day, 15 minutes or something at those events, and they were for 10 days. So over 10 days or 25 a day, you can do the math. And, you know, if I went to the Spiritual Association of Great Britain and I'd have a room full of 50 people, or a church service, you know, because I'm a minister as well. I'm also a professor, by the way. I got many titles.
Right.
And so I basically would just stand up in front of, say, 50 people and would give very quick messages, like, I want to come to you and I'm telling you ABC and then something.
Right.
And there was one time when I was very angry because we had a big rally in those days in England where we had over 1,000 people attend, and we had about 7 mediums on the dais, you know, on the platform.
Yeah.
And we all had to do 3 people. And the whole time that I was doing readings, the 3 people I chose, I knew I didn't want to go to them because they were negative, but Spirit made me. And one was a guy right at the back, and I told him what I was getting, and he was saying, could be, might be, and so on. And I'm thinking, I know I'm right, but he's not admitting it. Well, he came to me afterwards, and he admitted that he was testing me because he wanted to write a thesis about me. I didn't like that. But there was a young boy who was sitting right in the middle of the whole event, and he just loomed up at me like he was enormous, and they made me go to him, and I'm telling him, and he's saying, no, 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 no. And then all of a sudden, the woman who's sitting next to him, she said, I knew you were lying. And everybody cheered. But, you know, I got off that dais. The other one was in a wheelchair, and I was very accurate with that one, so it was good. But I got off that dais and I was furious with my spirit guides, and I cried a lot. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. If you don't give me better messages and accuracy than this, and I was 23, I think, at the time.
Yeah.
So I had to do a spiritual church later, about a week later, and it was so scary. I went the other way because they were giving me telephone numbers, street names and numbers, and and like one guy, I said, when you were at the sink yesterday and you cut your thumb, and he held up his thumb like this with a bandage.
Oh, wow.
And it was so scary. It was too accurate, but I could see that they needed that, and that was partly why I became well known, because of my accuracy. And then it was about, I don't know, I was about 25, 26. And the older mediums were saying, you're too young. You can't be a public medium. You're still a fledgling,
Why?
as they called them,
Oh.
you know. And but those people ended up coming to me and asking me to teach them. Yeah. The Psychic News in England was always writing about me as well. That helped me get out there, because, you know, in those days they didn't have television or radio.
Right.
You could, you know, I did go on a radio tour in England, which was very unusual. That was good. I was about 27 or 8 then.
This is before all the
you know,
psychic TV shows and ghost hunting
Yeah,
shows. So this is way before any of that kind of awareness. So yeah, you know, it's a different media for sure for you.
Yeah. And I did another one in my 30s as well, but it was unusual to get that opportunity. Yeah.
The people, you know, I've had so many of my own personal experiences. I'm a complete believer in the ability of somebody to be able to get accurate information they shouldn't know, because I've had my experience, a psychometry experience where I was holding a photo and I just wasn't trying, but I knew all these things about the person. I knew their first, pretty much their last name. Like I knew they hid stuff in the house. From that moment on, I was in my early 20s when this happened to me. You know, when anybody says I have this ability, I'm going to listen. I'm not going to be skeptical of it, you know, because I had that experience. I don't know how I got that information, but I did. So other people that are way more better at it than I am definitely can.
Well, psychometry is the sense of energy, the feeling of what it is. And if you can identify that feeling within your own life, then you know what it is that that person's going through. And it's one of the first things you use when you're born. When you come out of the mother's womb and come down the birth canal, your brain is activated and the spiritual self in you activates psychometry. So you know who your mother is versus the grumpy nurse who's delivered you because she's had an argument with her mum or something. And you don't have it in words, but you will cry in the arms of that person because they don't feel comfortable. And when you're sitting up and feeling people around you, you'll smile because you've 3 months now they're doing it. Eyes are open wide when they're born, whereas when I had my babies, they were sleepy. There's a whole different thing about children now. Yeah. So
well, I saw it with my
development as well.
Well, I want to get into that because I got a lot of people I know that listen to this show that are trying to develop their abilities. So I definitely want to get into that tonight too. What are some practices for that? But when you talk about a child having, it's interesting that, you would think that would be a great way for evolution to give us that ability to use psychometry at that early stage of life when you're first born to sense things or know things. I witnessed it with my son Liam when he was born. He was crying. As soon as they put his face down to my wife, he smiled at me. And what's weird is I've told the story in the show, that smile he gave me right when they put his face down, he stopped crying. He smiled. It's the same smile when I saw a translucent boy many years before. Right before I was going to get married to my wife, I saw this translucent boy. It was like 7 or 8. Walk through my parents' living room and smile at me. It was that smile. I knew that moment. He smiled at me. That was what I saw. Somehow he came to me many years before he was born and showed himself to me. It's one of those weird experiences, but he did. As soon as he was crying, as soon as he touched her face, he smiled.
Yeah, we can get stuff like that. One of my children has 8 children. 4 of each, and but she lost one while her mother was dying. Actually, it's rather tragic. She had asthma, and she couldn't get to the door, and she's on the floor. And there's a whole story here, but I'll try and be quick. She can't get up because she's dying, and the paramedics on the other side, and they're not allowed in England to break down the door like they are here. They call the police, and the police don't come for 2 hours. I'm in Japan, and excuse my language, but blah blah blah, FF blah 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 blah, bloody police, blah blah blah. And I'm like, what? I can hear as clear as hearing you. I said, what? Where are you? What? I'm bloody dead.
Yeah.
And I get home and there's all these messages because I've been away. It was my day off. All these messages, call home, call home. Yeah, and she passed. And the thing was, going back to my story, my daughter-in-law was pregnant. And with all this happening, she lost it. And when the last child was born, I knew that was the one she hadn't had, and it was unexpected, And so when I see that, I haven't actually physically seen that child. I haven't been able to get back to England because of everything, My husband died, by the way, last year. So
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, thank you. But, I was prepared for it. He's been ill for a long time, though. It was necessary to put. It's better, when someone gets, ill, you get to that point where you just want to let them be at peace, and I'd done everything I could to give him as long as he could. And I think he died of COVID, though, before it was recognized.
Really?
Yeah.
See, we've heard those. A lot of people said that it was around a lot sooner, and here comes YouTube going demonetize. But I've heard that a lot of people think they might have had it earlier than it was ever reported, that it was already going around. So wow, that I'm again sorry for your loss.
Hospital. He broke an arm. Yeah, he broke an arm, and he was in rehab. And my friend came up to visit me in November, so I can tell you when. And we were in there, and everyone was coughing. And we walked out, we said, there's something wrong there. And the next day we were coughing. And so we both took colloidal silver. By the way, I wrote all about that. Colloidal silver kills the virus.
Definitely YouTube going to go.
In distilled water, yeah.
Yeah.
And people tell me, they say, I've been taking it for years in regular water. I said, well, you've just been taking nothing. Because the silver's negated when you do that. You must have it in distilled water.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And you must put back your probiotics and your enzymes because it kills everything. But worms, bugs, viruses, amoebas you've eaten with Japanese food.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard horror stories about that.
In that system, yeah. Yeah.
Well, you talk about you mentioned with like Trump, the enigma of society. I want to kind of revolve back to that because what we're dealing with now with COVID and the strangeness of this year, 2020. Everybody keeps talking about. I've called Trump the imperfect avatar for America's angst. Like I've always said about, I don't like any political side pretty much. I'm always in the middle of every argument. And I always look at every election as the Ghostbusters scene at the end when they have to choose the form of their destructor. That's pretty much every election for me now. And that's what I see Trump, lay aside the politics, is he's an avatar for an angst of people feeling they've gotten the shaft from politicians for years.
I agree with you.
A lot of lies and a lot of misconceptions about, people think certain politicians are great because they believe this political side. Well, both sides suck. That's how I feel about it. Mm-hmm. And I think he's just that avatar. Doesn't mean he's perfect, the imperfect avatar of our angst of being basically shafted by both political parties for so long. It doesn't mean I agree with him or anything like that. It's just my observation of it.
Yeah, well, coming back to what I was saying earlier, because I departed from it, the great Piscean age was overlapping the great Aquarian age, 3,500 years of each.
Right.
So we got in this loop, this oval loop, of half of the Piscean age and half of the Aquarian age. And we're doing that over 350 years. I own this. I want to keep it. You're not going to have it too. I want to be free. So we've had 3.5 centuries of destruction versus people awaking to we need a better system in place. I was musing about the country a couple of weeks ago, actually, before the election, and Franklin came to me and he said very simply, when we sat together and thought about how we could make this country work, we were thinking a few 2 or 3 million, not billions. He said to me, it has to be changed. That was Franklin.
Benjamin Franklin?
Yep.
So he's still like you're communicating with Benjamin Franklin. He's like still aware of what we're going through right now.
Oh, he's aware. Yeah, of course.
Is he rolling over in his grave? Is he rolling over in his grave?
He wasn't. He's
He
not
should
like
be.
that. They're not like that anymore.
No.
You know, if they come back, like Winston Churchill, when he came back to me and spoke to me in public, he was saying how Britain and the hierarchy and the royal family will change, and it has. We've seen it now.
Yeah.
And, you know, when Gandhi came through me, he said that there was going to be trouble in India, and there was. They murdered the prime minister and so on.
Yeah.
They know what's going on. And so Franklin is saying, he came to me, I can't remember his exact words because I was sort of musing and drifting off and meditating, you know.
Yeah.
But he said that, in a nutshell, that they were thinking, you know, a few millions. They weren't thinking 2 millions is what he said. They weren't thinking billions of Americans. They weren't knowing how many people would come here and live here and how many, you know, people would have different cultures and religions and all that kind of thing. Because it wasn't in their consciousness. And today,
Well, yeah, it was a different time period. I mean,
Yeah.
it was a different time period. That was why everybody getting upset about founding.
The Constitution has to be changed.
Well, I see.
Yeah,
I'm a big
But no.
Constitution person. I don't
But
see
that
it as a
doesn't
living
mean-
document.
That doesn't mean that it's gone. He said changed. That means words, amendments, you know, something. I don't
all
know.
for that.
I'm not in it.
I'm all for, you know, they want to do it legally through amendments. That's cool. That's fine.
No,
You want to
that's
change
what
something.
he made
That's what it's set
change.
up to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a big defender of the Constitution. I see both political parties,
Well,
you
you
know,
don't
use it
wanna
when they
change-
want to.
Yeah, you've got to have your foundation stone wherever you are, whatever country
Yeah.
it is. But he said it has to be amended because it's, you know, he used that word actually.
Well, there's a lot of talk
I've got
about
the
that.
cold air on blowing on my shoulders.
Oh no, Benjamin Franklin's coming in going, you know, wagging his finger at us. I don't know. I don't want to see the Constitution destroyed. That's what I think is the founding of this country. People can say, you know, this country was founded on evil or whatever. I think it was founded on that Constitution, on the Declaration of Independence, as an idea that maybe not as perfect back then, but we're working on it. You know, I think the idea is something that revolutionary for the world. What those founding fathers set up.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I've got so many people in my head right now.
that's all right.
Red Cloud reminds me. He said to me, I've got this written in one of my own books, and I did publish it, you know, as well. He said to me, America, this is years ago, it's like in 80s, because he's been with me since I was 5. And I didn't know who he was till I got over here. He said that America is proud to be the first to the moon. So America should be proud to be the first country that is completely, I can't remember the exact words because I'm not reading it, but completely self-sufficient in that we have all that we need in one country and we don't need to be exchanging everything with every other world. We should be
I'm
the
all for
first
that.
to show how to unify all that we have and use it well. And then as an example, other countries would follow. And I was also looking at the
I love that idea.
technology.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
The
I love that
technology
idea.
of the future is sound. Everybody's saying we need more coal, we need more oil. We don't. It's going to be sound. We have deep sound within the earth that is vibrationary. And it's, if you notice how people have been doing research on sound with sand on drums, you get symmetrical shapes when you play music next to a drum with sand on it. And it's amazing. You get circles and triangles and, you know, all those things. And so sound is the vibration. This is what the aliens fly on, actually, is sound. And
Sound.
Sound, yeah. That's why sound and light. That's how they fly the ships. And that's why they can change so quickly in different directions. There's so much light up there and there's so much sound. You've got no idea. So there's universal sound in terms of the cosmos. And then there's earthly sounds that we know we can hear and sounds beyond our hearing that animals can hear. And there's even higher sounds. the whole of the universe is based on the sound, and that's in my book, The Way to Oneness, which was published in German first. It went into East Berlin when the wall came down. I went to Germany not knowing anything about the book fair, and that was another meant to be thing.
Well, you know, I've heard a lot of stories, you know, over the years about people who've either channeled or, you know, mainly channelers of Atlantis, and they always talk about sound being a big important part to Atlantis, and their ability, what they had technology wise, was really based off of sound.
Yeah,
I've heard that
was
many times.
Yeah, that's why my crystal acupuncture is so efficient and works, because you see, when the atmosphere cooled, you know, things come from gas to liquid to solids, and every solid is molecular. So when a medium has the healing energy and you hold it, it's going through, it has to wind its way through the elements of the stone, past different molecules, if you think of it like that.
Yeah.
And then it shoots out of the point like it actually is a beam of light. And scientists many years ago proved it with a ruby, that they could pass a beam of energy through a ruby, and it burns through 2 inches of steel, a hole.
Oh, yeah.
So can you imagine if you put a stone on your meridian point, and it's running through the meridians up to your brain and down. So if you do your thumb, it's connected to your toe. If you do this finger, it's the second toe, and so on each side. And then you have 5 bodies, and you have chakras. I'm not going to give a whole lecture here, but you know, your constant energy, and your energy is sound. You are sound.
And I, being a musician and somebody, you know, I'm a audiophile, you know, my evidence I get into is EVP evidence, and how do the spirits communicate through recordings like that. Or we do ITC, which is, again, spirits manipulating sound, audio sound that they're manipulating to communicate. I'm very interested in sounds, stochastic resonance, you know, to me, you know, the idea of UFOs flying on it, that's a new concept of me. But definitely think sound is a big important when it comes to the spirit world.
Yeah, I've seen the engines. You know, they let me see them. So
Ooh, see, I'm a space junkie. I'm a sci-fi junkie, so I'd love to hear how it works with sound.
Let me go one step further. I have a daughter, half alien, half human. And
so she's a hybrid?
She's a hybrid. But what I was doing was teaching them how to use their emotions. And they're all on another planet, somewhere in the universe, not ours, somewhere else. And she's really pretty. She's got the doe eyes, but she's got the high cheekbones and the narrow chin, has little whatnot hair. And they just came to me telepathically last year and told me that congratulations. And I said, what for? And they said, you're a grandmother. And I said, what? I knew she had a womb, but she didn't have ovaries. And so I said, oh, they're your eggs. So I guess I have some children there as well.
So
but you know, I can't prove it, but you know, I know it's real. Yeah.
Well, I have a lot, you know, I had a number of contactees and abductees on this show. You know, proof is definitely, you know, most of them can't prove it. I have one abductee. I think he's got a lot of good proof. But I believe in the experience. I've had my own experiences. So, you know, I do want to kind of get back. We're going to come up to commercial break here in about 5 minutes. I do want to explore a little bit more with you on your aspects of the alien encounters you've had. Very interesting when you said that you remembered as a child talking to little blue people, right? That to me, you know, I've heard of, we had guests on, I can't remember your name and all. They wrote a book, Abducted, and theirs was a blue alien, kind of like a gray almost, but was blue. Was that what you saw? Something like that?
I thought he was in a blue dressing gown, so did my mum. But when I saw him later, as I said, there's stuff in that book, My Journey. And you know, I realized that his skin was blue and that he wasn't wearing a blue dressing gown. But, you know, there are different ones. There are different grays. And people call them Zeta, but they're actually Shit Zeta.
What is it?
Shit Zeta.
Shit Zeta. Well, the reason I'm interested, you want to know the real reason why I'm interested in the whole blue alien thing?
That's not how they pronounce it, by the way. I'm the
butcher. I'm the butcher of names, so I'm sure I mispronounce every alien name easily. But ever since my artistic days, when I was a little kid, I used to be a really good drawer, and I kind of got out of it. But when I used to do paintings and drawing, I used to do a lot of alien, angelic characters that would have blue skin. I was like fascinated with the blue skin thing. And then one time when I was sitting down with my cousin during a candlelight meditation, we were in our 20s, really trying to get into this stuff. He said he saw me change. He said he saw me change into what it looked like. He said, kind of like a gray, but you were blue. And he had these lights flying around you. You saw it through the candlelight, saw that. And it kind of freaked me out. I'm like, what are you saying? I'm an alien? So I've always been interested. I had this fascination with who are these blue aliens?
Actually, we've all been aliens. You don't really
I believe
think
it.
that we keep reincarnating here on Earth. No, we have been many different species throughout the cosmos. If you think of, I have my PowerPoint talks and things, I have a cartwheel, and you can come down just for this Earth. I made it as an example, different spokes, and you could come down, say, 3,500 period, or you could come down in the future, or next life you might come just make it the same, 3,500 in the past. So you're not even in time relativity from the oneness. And when you go to the core, which is the center of the wheel, there it is the now, the I am, the existence, and the energy of the way we move and consciousness. It's so beyond anything you could even think here.
Well,
I wrote a book called Einstein's Theory. It's Quantum Entanglement, a Paranormal Point of View. You might want to read that one.
That does sound very interesting. Right up my alley. Because I named the show Paranormal Soup because I believe all these things are connected, from it being Bigfoot to UFOs to ghosts to aliens to witches and banshees and all this stuff. I feel is connected in some way. There's some universal law of the paranormal that will pull all these things together. That there's something behind it, and the afterlife is probably my most fascination. With what happens to us after we die, and with the spirit. Because I think and reincarnation, that's all tied together as a key to our purpose in life, I guess, to figure out, especially when it comes to reincarnation. And I've always said, I always felt like I was an alien.
That was the first book I wrote that went into East Berlin. It's now redone. It's called, same as my show, Journey into an Unknown World, The Way to Oneness Revisited. In fact, I've got a copy here. I got all these things out, not because I was wanting to prove it, but because Spirit said, this one, look, this is...
Wow, big book.
It's the book. And what you would do is you learn, in the beginning was the word, and it talks about everything. It's full of meditations to do as you learn everything. And it also describes all the therapies and things that are available. It describes all about the psychic ability, the healing ability, the lower and higher self, ascended masters, all that kind of thing, into the higher and lower God self and so on. It's a book.
Well, I definitely knew this conversation was going to be paranormal soupy. Like, we're going to get into a lot of topics. I definitely want to get into the psychic development, but I think when we come back, I still want to kind of touch upon what you know of aliens and what their presence here means and what your contact is. I really do want to know, because it's big fascination of mine. I'm kind of like unraveling some of my own personal experiences. So I'd love to hear your take on what you've experienced and know about the alien presence on Earth, because there seems to be an awakening. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we will open up the phone lines for you guys to call in with your own questions or maybe advice from Dr. Margaret on how you can develop your own psychic abilities or mediumistic abilities. Call in. We will take your questions when we come back from the short commercial break.
How long do I have?
You got about 5 minutes.
I need to.
All right, go for it.
he is conducting an experiment into the combined effects of sensory deprivation and hallucinatory drugs. The subject of the experiment is himself, and the experiment is out of control. Ken Russell's Altered States, a film that must not be missed, is in the West End now. Altered States, Certificate X.
Do you wish for more paranormal and spiritual content? The Paranormal Chronicles magazine is a free digital magazine crammed with the very best in paranormal and spiritual articles and features. No sign-up, no subscription, just free reading and knowledge for you. Read today at www.paranormalchronicles.com/magazine.
Oh, come on. I'm Southern, but... Nope.
That'll do. Hello. I am Kat Hobson, host of Paranormal Experience here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting out of Birmingham, Alabama. I enjoy having guests from all areas of the paranormal, from ghosts to ufology to cryptids and beyond. You'll find some of the best researchers in their fields bringing you some great information. Join me on Wednesday nights from 8 to 10 p. Eastern here on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
The night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do Voices from Beyond, the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
Paranation Magazine is a new paranormal magazine based out of Denver, Colorado. Our goal isn't just to give you the best paranormal content out there, but to promote paranormal unity. We're doing this by giving everyone an opportunity to tell their stories and to share their experiences. For more information, follow us on Facebook at Paranation Magazine and soon, paranationmag.com.
I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is the extraordinary travels of a young, alone, and broke psychic in the highly anticipated new book from internationally renowned psychic, medium, medical intuitive, and best-selling author Sherry Dillard. Critics have described I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like as an engrossing memoir, an empowering story of how a broken girl came to accept her psychic gift, a refreshing and fun read. I've Never Met a Dead Person I Didn't Like is available through Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, and wherever books are sold.
Tired of school?
Who was Joan of Arc?
Noah's wife? Like to travel?
Let's go back into history. Let's reach out and touch someone.
Want to meet people in the past?
Put them in the Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden? Excellent! Execute them. Oh, yes.
Then hitch a ride with George Carlin, Keanu Reeves, and Alex Winter in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure from Orion Pictures.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything is 42.
42?
Yes, I thought it over quite thoroughly. It is, it's 42. It would have been simpler, of course, to have known what the actual question was.
But it was the question. The ultimate question. Of everything.
That's not a question. Only when you know the question will you know what the answer means.
You are listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419, or by Skype caller ID OOJBlandOO or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, we're talking to Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops. She's the teacher of mediums, the voice of oneness. She's the author of Donald Trump, The Enigma of Society, Journey into the Unknown, and My Journey into Oneness. We're talking about, this is a very soupy show. We're getting a lot of different topics tonight. I definitely want to hear her take as somebody who's experienced or a contactee with aliens, hybrid alien children. She's not the first guest to cover this topic, but it's her first time on the show, and I can't help but dig into it. We will get into also her abilities as a psychic medium and how you can develop your abilities as well. The phone lines are open, as you heard Rob say there, all the phone numbers. Call in. I will take your phone call, but just wait. If you're waiting online, you'll hear us talking. Wait till I call on you, and then you can ask your questions or tell us about your own experiences. If I hang up on you, it's because I have somebody else on the line, so just try back a little bit later. But let's go ahead and get back to our guest. Thank you for staying with us here, Dr. Margaret. Oh, I got to unmute you. Sorry. I keep forgetting. There you go. Sorry.
All right. Hi.
So we were talking about your experiences with on the alien side of things. When you've since your childhood, you've had experiences. Can you outline a little more about what you have learned or what you know of aliens' presence here on Earth?
Well, the first thing that I learned long before anybody even talked about it was that I never saw any spaceships.
Yeah.
I have to say that very clearly as a young child. Was that they told me that there were people living in the caves in the earth. And I didn't know what they meant, but they gave me images of these tall, slender humans, like looking people who had blonde hair and blue eyes. And I never really thought about it at all beyond they told me. And then one day when I was in my teenage years, I was down in Cornwall, where Tintagel is, and there's a cave, King Arthur's cave. And my sister and I were, what kids do, looking at shells and things around that area. And I looked up out of the corner of my eye. I swear to this day I saw it, but when I re-looked, I couldn't see it, was a very tall person, probably about 8 foot tall, with blonde hair in that cave. And when I turned to look and we went over there, there was no one there. But I felt like I'd seen someone. Well, later on, I felt it was an Arcturian. So I don't really know. But that was the experience that I had at that age of someone different. And they definitely weren't human. They definitely weren't there. And I do know with the Arcturians that they can manifest in any form. They could appear as a horse or a dog and be with you. I had one occasion when I was really crying. My parents are always arguing, and I'd been the topic of the reason and blah, 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 no idea what. But I ran away and I went over the park and I sat on this chair and someone sat next to me. I was bent down like this crying, and she said, "Don't cry, dear." And I looked over and she was dressed in pre-war wrap-over aprons. And she sat and talked to me for a good hour, I would say. And she was very kind and very physical and touched my hand a few times, things like that. And then she said, "You better run along. Your parents will wonder where you are." And I literally stood up from the bench, walked maybe 2 or 3 paces, turned to say to her, "Thank you." She wasn't there.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere she could have gone to because there was fencing, it was in a park, and they had fencing, so nobody could jump over. You'd have to be 3 foot, jump over it to get. And I even walked back and looked around, and there was nowhere to see her. And a lot later, when I was questioning it, I heard a voice when I was in my bedroom said, "Arcturian." So I guess I put the two together, but I can't prove it. And she was not very tall. She was probably 5 foot, about the height I was at that time.
Yeah. We've had guests on that talked about the Arcturians, and I've heard different things about a number of different alien species. Does this seem to be one that is personally connected to you then, that has a purpose to contact you?
Well, it's more about, I know I've been an Arcturian. It's more about, I know that I've been, living on other planets. I've done a lot of out of body, trips to planets. It's like going 3 stars to the right and 4 stars to the left, and you're there. You're traveling so fast you don't think about it. But I did want to come back to the aliens. When the Greys come, they have several people movers. The one that they land in my backyard would be like a cone shape, rather like the I remember when I watched the parachute coming down with the astronauts, the cone shape. I'm thinking, oh, that's like the ones that they used to land in the backyard and I'd get into. And there was like, when they come, there'd be 2 of them, 2 of the Greys who are about 3 foot something, 3'6".
Yeah.
And there was always the reptilian. I didn't have a name for them. They didn't speak. And they're very human to look at, but their skin is like a snake, and they're warm to touch, unlike snakes that are cold. And they're guarding, and they don't they're not aggressive, but they're like policemen for the Greys.
Really?
Because we as humans, they don't do the things that people think they do. Okay. In fact, if they do anything anatomically to us, they're healing us. They're changing our DNA. They're rearranging things that are wrong in our bodies, so they save us.
Okay.
But a lot of people, one of the things they do generation after generation is always the same. They got to find out if you are capable of being a teacher, if you're capable of having the right DNA that they want for the to crossbreed us and so on. And so they do a lot of telepathy, and they put me in a room of spiders, and they put me in snakes, because those are my 2 big fears. Again,
I can't do snakes.
In my book again.
Oh, I can't do snakes.
No, I know, and I'm screaming, and then all of a sudden the room is white. There's no creatures in it at all.
Like the Matrix.
Well, I don't know about the Matrix, but I'm just saying
that's what it sounds like.
Okay, I have watched the Matrix recently. I did, but I can't honestly remember too much of it. But when the last part where he's doing all this, and I've had that kind of experience with traveling in light. Yeah, So that gave me cold chills.
Well, I call it like the Matrix is that you were talking about like you're experiencing them, like making you face fears or spiders and snakes, and then it turning white, like you're in the holodeck on Enterprise, or you're in the Matrix, you know, or like they have the standing room where everything's white before they bring up all the guns. You know what I'm saying? You were, you know, it sounds like you're in some kind of hologram room or something like that.
Yeah, it does. And I have to say this, you know, that every single science fiction movie that we've seen, and I believe you, I go and see them.
I've seen a lot.
If we can't imagine it, we can't know it. So if we can imagine it, then we do know it because we've had it. We've been in existence with it in another dimension, another time, another place. So all we're doing is reinventing the wheel, as it were. And we're bringing awakening to us that we have this knowledge. It's like the skulls, you know. I actually bought a little one made modern times, and you know, I sat and programmed it.
The crystal skull?
I sat and programmed it with my life, and I gave it to one of my students who is well developed psychically by me. And I said to her, what did you pick up from this? And she was holding it, and she goes, well, it seems that I'm seeing images of you. And I said, yeah, tell me what you see. She says, well, like when you were young. And she started telling me little bits and pieces. She didn't do a lot. I didn't want to overwhelm her. But I then told her that this skull, it was quartz, and it's been reprogrammed by me to have memories of me.
See, well, no, that makes no sense. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's so interesting you say that.
Yeah. So let me go back a minute, though. A man came to see me. This is why I did it. A man came to see me in 1986 when I was living in Simi Valley in LA. And he pulled out this little thing that looked like a frog. It was the top part of the skull without the teeth. And he said, what do you think of this? And I held it in my hand and I looked into it, and boy, did I see a lot. I saw, you were just flashing, you know, colors in it, and villages and towns and things. And I said to him, where did you get this? And he said he found it in a store. It was a paperweight. And I said to him, this is more than that. This is a skull. If you look at it, you can see it's a skull. It's not a frog. And I tried to buy it off him. He paid $3 for it or something silly like that. And he had no idea what he had, but he wouldn't part with it. He felt it was his lucky charm. I was so sad. I wanted it. But there are all sorts of different skulls all over the world that are buried, because there was a time when skulls were like a cross to a Christian. And then if we go back to even further, you know, we already know quartz can control a watch. I remember when I was doing it, they first came out, and this guy had a piece of quartz, and he was moving it backwards and forwards, and all I could see was a rainbow effect as he was moving it backwards and forwards. He couldn't see that, but I could. So I bugged him all the week during the event to give me that, and he finally said, take the damn thing. And I've still got that today, and I made it into a pendulum, and I still can see the rainbow effects in it. And so, you know, people don't realize what we have, and even if they do, they don't know how to use it, because nobody is teaching them. So I've spent a lot of my years teaching people how to use their psychic ability, how to use equipment, resonation, sound, music. I sing, I get a mic, and I'll have them all lie down, and I'll do anything from making waves and sounds that, you know, one does with a mic, to screeching and yelling down it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I do. And because they're all sounds, and sounds reverberate through the aura and help people to release negativity and then come back to center and rebalance the chakras. And so I've got so much to teach. So this is why I'm working with Katie Kamara. We're going to teach online on easypeasysolutions.org. She's busy working. I think you know Katie. We're busy working on getting that done, and then she's redoing for me Sumaris Education Center and Universal Christ Church, because I have a lot of students around the world that are teaching now, And I'd like to pull them in time as teachers, different languages, different things. Well, I'm ambitious. I'd like to have a foundation or a university. My ideal, a university where people go and study all these things and come out with a doctorate of some kind, correlated with the other side, like medicine and science research and so on. It's time this world started to unify. And one of the things Spirit showed me, a sidebar here, is there will come a time when money, whether it's lira or francs or marks or dollars, will be exactly the same value. So it doesn't matter which country you go to, you're not trading. You just have these things. And every country is self-sufficient. No more fighting, I want this and I'm going to take it from you. This Aquarian age, I'll come back to that again, will evolve. It's going to take 200 years for them to finally realize we don't have to conquer one another and take stuff. Instead,
200 years from now?
200 years. Not 20, 200 years. Just
if we don't destroy ourselves before then. That's what I was saying. We do have somebody waiting on the phone line I want to get to here. We got Zach on the line. How you doing tonight, Zach?
I'm doing pretty good, brother. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for calling in.
Okay, so I just have 2 questions, and I'll keep them as short as possible. Hey, Margaret, it's great to see you again. I first saw you over on Laura Lee Potvin's show, so I was definitely looking forward to seeing you on tonight's show. So my first question to you is, based on your contacts with extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, spirits, have any of them given you insight or commentary on our current political environment? And without mentioning names, if they did, what was some of the information they gave you?
Well, the oneness is not concerned with what is right or what is wrong, because ultimately we need both. We need friction, and friction comes back to sound. But what they did say to me, so you can know that people were asking me, who's going to win the election? And what they told me was Biden, but it's a neck and neck race. And it's turned out to be exactly that. And then what they also said to me was that many of the people who are in office at that time will resign. And they started resigning. So I'm just watching what they're saying. And I'm going to be interested in knowing, I think whoever is in charge here will change a lot. I've sensed that from Spirit over the next 2 years. They're going to be coming and going. And I don't know, I didn't feel Biden will be there for a full term. So what
you and everybody else. You and everybody
Yeah.
else, I think, on that one.
Yeah.
Do you have another question, Zach?
There's something wrong with his health too,
Well, yeah. Do you have anything else, Zach?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more wrong with his health. But my second question. So I had a dream recently that was very similar to Jason's experience, what he had when he first saw his youngest son before he was born. My question to you is, what are some ways that I can be able to enhance my abilities to be able to find the answers and the interpretation behind this dream I had?
What was your dream?
I had a dream where I was in my late 50s, I would say. I was still living out here in Arizona, but I was very financially wealthy. And the biggest thing that stood out to me is that I had 2 full-grown daughters, and I was given their names, and I knew their personality, how they were, and it just really resonated with me. And I didn't even know if I was looking into my future or what it might have been. But yeah, that's why I definitely want to ask you how I can be able to really enhance my abilities, whatever abilities I may have, to be able to really find the answers behind this dream and see if I was looking into the future, or if this is just pure fiction.
Well, first of all, let me define dreams. Okay, there are 3 types of dreams. The conscious dreams that you're doing at night before you fall asleep. So the time of the dream is also part of what's going on. So if you're just falling asleep and you're having those kinds of dreams, then that is a process of eliminating the stuff you don't need and awakening to what you do need. Then if you have the dream in the middle of the night, that is you processing the potentials for what can happen in the future. And then if you have the dream early in the morning before you wake up, then that is the dumping dream. So like somebody called me years ago and said, I just had a dream that the plane was crashing and I'm taking a holiday next week. Is my plane going to crash? And actually that was a symbol of her life was changing a lot. It's not the plane at all. Her journey abroad was fine. But when she got back, then her life changed. Circumstances were different. And at first she was like, oh my God. But then after she got into it, it turned out to be good. So coming back to you and family, I have to interpret that psychically for you. Having a vision of daughters and marriage and happy families and all those things is because you grew up without that. And so you're searching to understand unity within yourself between the dark and the light. And that tells you that you need to understand the femininities, hence daughters, and understand that even though you're male, your female self is there within you to give yourself divine love as a child would give you divine love. And then if those children are yours and you see them and they come to you, then you will be prepared for them in the way that they need you to be for them. So there's much more to it. I'm just giving you a quick overview. If I was sitting with you in session, they would be telling me a lot more about it. Does that make sense to you?
Yep, it does, Margaret. And once again, thank you so much for answering my questions. It's always good to see you as well. So definitely looking forward to hearing more what you have to say.
Thank you, Zach. Yes.
Thanks, Zach, for calling in. You have a great night, bud.
Hey, you too, brother. You take it easy.
Well, my experience of seeing my son wasn't a dream, though. Mine was physically awake, sitting on my parents' couch and seeing this translucent boy walk through the living room and come up and just stand there and smile at me. Mm-hmm. And then many years later, he's born, and that smile was his. And I just knew instantly right there that was the boy I saw then. That's why people talk about we choose our parents and all that stuff. I'm a total believer in that after that experience.
How old is your son now?
He's 4.
And how old was the son you saw walking across the room?
He was like 8, I would say, guessing. Looking at my son, who's 9 now, is about that size, maybe.
So, which one looks like you?
My oldest, not this one, not the one I saw translucent. My oldest one is like, they call him my mini-me. But Liam looks like the one that I saw before he was born. It definitely has more of his mother's traits in that.
So sometimes we do get a glimpse of the future, you see. And I'm feeling more that what you were seeing was the future. So I'd be interested to see when he gets to be 8 years old, if he smiles the same way.
That smile as a baby, I recognize that smile. It's just the way he smiles, and it still smiles that way.
We don't lose our smile; it's always there.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, if you might have had a prophetic view of him, and I would say if that was the case, then when he's 8 years old, there may be something you'll have to deal with him at that age. It could be a preparation for that time. It doesn't have to be bad. I mean, I had a view of my eldest son too when he was young, and it turned out he had dyslexia, and I ended up putting him into a drama school because he couldn't do the math and writing. Oh. And so he was a child actor for many years. Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised if this one, Liam, ends up being a child actor the way he is. He's a drama queen for sure. But I love him dearly. But I believe in, you talk about soul structure coding and all that. How much are I kind of want to, like I said, I believe in a paranormal soup, that all these things are connected. When it comes to the soul and us, being born and reincarnation and dying and being reborn again, how much do aliens have influence in this area, like in the afterlife?
Well, first of all, I have to go back to what I said earlier. We've all been aliens. You
Right.
could reincarnate as a Martian next year if you wanted. If you died next year, you can do it that quickly if you wanted to, or you could wait centuries, in terms of our time.
Right.
But you see, it's not next year for us here. You would be on Mars and you would be in a different time area. See, so we look at Mars and say it's derelict, but you could come from a different time period in universal consciousness and oneness and be on Mars when it's not a dead place. See what I'm saying?
Like back in time, like before it was a
Yeah,
dead
but
planet.
you're not going back in time because the core of the oneness is all
Right.
time is now.
Right. I get that.
So you could be, that's why a lot of people are having dreams and they're mixed up because they think they went there and lived there for 30 years and then came back here as a small child again. But no, what we're looking at is our ability as a spirit to be in any time zone
At any
and
time.
live in any form.
We've had people guests and people have had experiences where they've like lived a life somewhere else for years and then came back to the instance that they left. Like it was like they experienced lifetimes of experience and then came back to where they were before. That there's been stories of people like that. I'm a big believer in parallel universes too, multiple timelines and all that. I believe that's possible. And when you throw reincarnation in the mix, you could have lived a life in a parallel timeline where the history is even different.
Yeah, you got to remember too that if we go into the soul coding, we're also going into the aspects of a universal soul group.
Right.
And right now, for example, all the people who are all up in arms and doing marches and they just congregate and they don't know one another, but they just bond. That's a soul group incarnated at the same time for a common purpose. Now, whether it's violent or whether it's peaceful, that's their way. We can't judge it because that's what they plan to do. And in the way that they do it, then affects the rest of us, who then sits there and says, oh, we have to do something about that. Well, what we do is our choice. Who we congregate with might be in converse or, it might be adversity. So we don't know until something happens and we're stimulated and we reach out and we find maybe a small group. I mean, I'll give you an example. Back in England, we did the World Symposium on Humanity in Wembley Studio, at Wembley Conference Centre, And we were doing it because the Americans had said they were going to support us and the Canadians were going to link up with us with satellite. And John Denver came. That's when I met him. And Carter's wife, Elizabeth, I shouldn't say bad things, but she gave this wonderful, loving speech and got off and said, where's my money?
You're talking about Jimmy Carter's wife? You said Carter?
Yeah. And it was like, what? And we had the Archbishop of Canterbury and people like that as well. We had a lot of people, and I was giving talks and lectures as well, but I was one of the organizers. And we were able to do that. And yes, there was a lot of debts, and people were saying to me, Margaret, how are we going to pay this? And I said, don't worry, there's some rich woman that's going to give us the money. And she did. And the agreement was it would be on the gate money, and we didn't make the gate money because the Americans didn't support us. And she just wrote it off.
You live, I should point out, some people have been asking where you live, and I don't know if they missed it, but you live in America now, right?
Yeah, I'm American. I married Stephen Van Coops, which is why my name Van Coops. And my past marriage was Rogers, which is the name of my son. So I kept the two. And it served me well because there's no other Rogers Van Coops in this whole world but me. So you can't forget me.
I had a number of people commenting in the chat room, like, where is she from again? Where is she living now? So I kept on wanting to clear that up.
I'm in Arizona.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. That's Zach that just called in. He's from Arizona too. So you get to join us Americans in the being an American citizen in the craziness that the last at least 4 years have brought us. you say we're coming upon a time of change. We're heading this new era. I mean, is it, are we predestined for it, or is there a chance we could go down a bad road, or Are we heading to
Well,
good?
let's go back to what we know. We know we had the COVID, and we know that has put us all in our homes because we're all supposed to rethink the way we live our life. That's the point of it. It's not about whether we die or not, but then on the overview, it is about where we die because we're too many. And it's like the lemmings. Every so often they just all go running mad and go over the cliff and kill themselves, leaving a few that lag behind who are now going to repopulate their species. So we in our own way are cutting back our numbers. And if you stop and think about all the people in the first wave that died, they were all the people who had bad hearts, bad digestive systems, and so on. The second wave we're looking at are people whose lymphatic systems are not strong. They may be drug users, they may be eating food that's augmented, and so on and so forth. And we're looking at where's the natural. So people that abuse their bodies, we're losing them. But at the same time, they're teaching us, don't abuse your body, We've got black is important right now, but we've got every nation is important. If you look on Al Jazeera News, which I do, it's probably the only news I watch because I want to see what's going on in the world.
Right.
There isn't one country that isn't in some way derelict or in revolution, in uprisings about their government or whatever, or they're flooded and they got no food, or they're fired down because everything's burnt down, or the locusts have gone and eaten all the fruit.
And we're just talking about they're still burning witches in South Africa. We're just talking about the news segment, how they're still burning witches in South Africa. I thought, well, we're in 2020. At least by now we're not burning witches. But yeah, they still are doing that.
I know, because what they think is that if they kill the devil in them, they'll be safe. But that's the way of 200 years ago, but where did they learn it? You see, another way, the Piscean age is showing us what we want to let go of. And the Aquarian age, that overlap, is showing us what we want to get in the future. But the problem is we can't see our future. So we keep leaning back to the past for what was, trying to use that as a foundation stone. And right now, the whole situation is let it go. We don't need the foundation stone of history. We need to reinvent the wheel in our way, a future way that has nothing to do with what was, but takes with it the wisdom, the knowledge of experience.
Well, we got to learn from history.
Yes, exactly. The wisdom, the knowledge, the experience. We take that, but we do it in a different way.
Yeah.
And that different way comes through science, it comes through the understanding of sound, and it comes through music, the arts, creativity.
Well, I think that's one of the worst things about COVID is you get all these young kids, in their homes doing virtual school and creativity, bands and band camp and all that stuff. All the stuff that these kids could have outlets for creativity right now is being suppressed by the lockdowns and that. I find that as a horrible thing because you got a lot of my heart breaks mostly for the kids that are going through this, being a father, and that what's this going to do to these generations in the future?
Well, it is the future in the sense of computers. We that unites us all. If we lost them, then we'd be back to what Red Cloud said, let America be the first to build everything within. Maybe that will happen. They haven't showed me. But what I do know is that the computer is very good for teaching children. If we've got good teachers, which is what I want to do anyway, but I'm not going to teach. I will have classes for children about their psychic ability and things, but we need children can learn. And I was just talking to Katie, her kids are making things, the teacher's saying we're going to make this and make that, and they're doing it, and she comes in and they've stuck it all on the walls, just like they're in a classroom. So I mean, that's really good. But at the same time, what we're missing is social contact, and we do need that. And so I'm all for having like playground time where they integrate different teachers, can let them talk to one another and about making pretend sausages over here, and over here we've just had some mushrooms and they're white and they look like this, and have them integrate online and talk with one another like you and I are doing right now.
Well, I'm watching my kid master the universe of the online and virtual video calls, and him and his little buddies now from school. They're getting on Google Hangouts or whatever, Google video call with each other. They're constantly, like they got it down better than adults do. So they're like almost starting to build. They're like playing games like Roblox, or all these different virtual worlds for them to go into. You know what I'm saying? They're living. They're becoming part of like this virtual world. And I'm like, how's that going to affect these generations when they grow up? And we got, as technology expands, and I'm a big person to have a little bit of fears of like the whole idea of transhumanism and the idea of us integrating ourselves so much into technology. And that's what scares me a little bit.
I agree with you. Me too. But this COVID's not going to be here forever. It's a 5,000-year-old. That was another thing. All this, the Chinese are manipulating. It's a load of rubbish. Spirit told me right in the beginning that it was a 5,000-year-old bug that was brought here by aliens, and it was frozen with the caps. When the Earth flipped over, it was frozen, and now our poles are melting. It was free, and all this about everyone sneezing on you. It's in the atmosphere. It's in the wind. You could be all on your own and breathe it in, and the bottom line is your system will kill it if you're healthy. If you're not, then you won't. And as I said, if you do the colloidal silver, it's going to kill all the bugs in your body, and then you put the natural things back, you're going to be healthy again. So it's a matter of time when it does die out, and when it does, we'll be out again. And yes, sports and dancing and social events, they'll come up again. We'll be doing that again.
I believe that too. We do have somebody else that called in, 860 area code. Who do we got on the line?
Hello, Jason. Hello, Dr. Margaret. This is Royal in Connecticut.
Hi, Royal.
Hello.
How are you? Hello,
Thank you
Margaret.
very
How are
well.
you?
I'm fine, thank
Okay,
you. How are
my
you?
question is, I'm sorry?
I said, how are you then?
My question. Oh, I'm doing well. I'm sorry. My question is, just recently, within about the last, I'd say a little over a month or so, I was told that my origin was Arcturian. Now, my whole life, I've been extremely intuitive. I don't say psychic, but pretty much I can meet a person and know all about them in seems 5 or 10 minutes. Is there any connection to that? Is there a possible connection to being Arcturian and very intuitive, or psychic, or?
Okay, Arcturian, I have to come back to psychometry. Arcturian, I mean, if I go to their planet now, they're like smoke, wisps of smoke. And I wrote this in the book too. They'll shimmer and then they'll become a form, okay? And then, they'll turn what looks like a dead planet into a garden. And I wrote that in my book. And so Arcturians have the ability to know all things. So in that sense, you would have that gift within you, because you would have felt an attunement to transformation of energy. So psychometry in our earthly way would mean that when you're sitting with someone and their aura is overlapping your aura, because the physical aura is about 3 feet extending in a healthy person all the way around. You're in an egg. That's 3 feet under your feet and 3 feet above your head. And so when you sit with someone side by side, your auras are mixing. And with the Arcturians, you could identify through your own life aspects of that person with you, and put it back. So for example, I was sitting with someone years ago in Egypt, in the desert, of course, and I just talking and musing, and all of a sudden I said to her, "Oh, you were a princess here, weren't you?" And she said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because I just felt you as that sitting here." And then she said, "Yeah, I was," but she said, "I'm tied into being something to do with another life," and she was going on about that. And then I said to her, do you ever thought about Arcturia? And she said, actually, yes. Now you mentioned it. So I said, there's the link. You've got a connection with Arcturia and past lives that allows you to recall your forms, your shapes that you've been in different lives that you've particularly been here. So Arcturians can do that. They can identify with other people as though it's their own life, but they also can identify with other species on other planets as well. So she hadn't got there then at that time. She was only about 25. But I would say that's what you're doing. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. It does make sense to me. I was just wondering. I mean, I seem to have this gift ever since I'm a little kid. And I could be around somebody literally 5 or 10 minutes and tell you their life story, or what they're going to turn out to be, or what they're going to do. It always bothered me. I always wondered if it was just my imagination, or how could I be so accurate so often? Because it turns out that I'm usually good.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, but that would be your psychic senses. And, you're just completely reading someone from the oneness. You need to learn about mediumship, because that's what's there with you, and that you're channeling it, because your energy is able to do that. I have a book called Expanding Images with the Omni card. That would help you.
Okay, expanding images.
Yeah, expanding images, because you're getting images, and that's how you interpret what you know about a person. And in the front is all about psychic development, the different parts of it. And you read all that, and you'd learn, and then it would kick you into understanding what you're doing.
Okay. Also, I find that I communicate a lot with people through my dreams. And I was wondering, is that, again, just my imagination, or because, again, it turns out to usually be accurate? And is
that's remote viewing.
Yeah, my father passed away over 10 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Remote viewing is something you can do, whether it's someone on Earth or whether it's someone in the spirit world. When you're in that sleepy state, you're able to go into your deep subconscious, and that allows you to be able to connect with people who've passed over, or people who are sleeping or doing something elsewhere in this world. You made me coming out of body, but you would know if you were. You'd wake up with a feeling you'd not been in your bed.
I've definitely done that many times. I've had a lot of out of body experiences, astral travel. I used to be able to do it at will when I was a kid. But well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Royal.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Dr. Margaret.
Thank you.
See, I've always struggled with, do I want to develop the abilities? I know I have some abilities. Like I said, I held a picture once of this person. He was deceased in a coffin. I was from a photo book album that was left behind in this home. I didn't know the person's name, but just holding the picture, it came out of my mouth. I said his first name. And then when they asked me to try to get the last name, I could hear a little voice in my head tell me it. And then I like, it was an instant connection. Like I knew this person was an alcoholic. They had been in the war. That they left old war memorabilia hidden in a spot in the house. And 2 weeks later, the guy's girlfriend actually found what I was talking about. Like I knew all that. This is one of my only times of like instant knowing connection with the spirit, I believe. But I never, I can't say I ever tried it again. I did a lot of tarot readings, experimented with that, but I kind of backed away from it in my life. But I do, like Royal, I do get that a lot. I can feel people's energy, and I get images in my head of people and things, and it turns out to be true. I don't know if I should pursue it, or how to even go from who I am now to try to, I guess, make it more active or more of an ability.
Well, the first thing is psychic. Everybody is psychic.
Yeah.
Everybody. You can't be here without being psychic, because your psyche is what is your psychic ability. How you develop it depends on the coding of your spirit and what you come here to do. And as I said, this book, Expanding Images with the Omni card, what I would take the Japanese students, I have a class of 50, and I'd give them the card itself, which is actually something I drew, and I drew it in my There's always a story with everything I tell. I drew
all
it
right.
when my children were young, and they told me I was going to teach with it. So I put it down to the local printer, who said, "Oh yes, we can do that for you. It cost you $4,000, color partitions and all that stuff in those days." I went, "Oh, not doing that."
Yeah.
So it went in a drawer, and it was painted and drawn in Indian ink, sort of cartoonish, and painted with my children's paints. So it was not as beautiful as it looks today, but with color copying that came in over time, it ended up colors of chocolate box. So I was well pleased with it. But anyway, I took these over to Japan, and I gave all my students a copy of this picture. And I said to them, "Okay, who's psychic?" And they put their hands up like this because they're very shy, you know.
Yeah.
And it was maybe 2 out of 50 people. And then through the day, I teach them how to use the images. Like you ask a question like, "Should I go shopping?" We'll make it silly on Friday. And then they got to look up in the sky and then look down at the card. And the first thing they see in the card, then they have to go to a little booklet I'd written out at the time, which just had the item in the book. And it gave them a few words that they could choose.
Yeah.
And that was how I was teaching it, that simply. And by the end of the day, with the many different exercises we did, I'd say, "Who's pregnant? Who's pregnant?"
Yeah. That's something else going on there.
Where did that come from? Was someone online that said have a baby? But anyway, coming back to, I'd say, "Who's psychic?" And all these hands would go way up like this, every one of them, all 50 of them. And that led me to teaching them to be mediums and to do levels 1 through 5 to become really skilled mediums and trance work as well. So I started them off with that book, and that's why I eventually made the big book. It's 8 by 10, and it's or 8 by 11, whatever it is, and it's got a copy of the card in the front, and then the back there's another page with it, and you can take that out and laminate it, so you've always got it, stick it on a card or photocopy it or something, and you can always use it. But the front is all about the psychic development, so you might like to get a copy of it. I don't have any here. I don't keep too many of them. I'm not teaching.
But this image you made, it's supposed to people focus on it to like kind of unlock something within them.
Yeah.
I mean, because Tibetans had a lot of that kind of imagery they would use to like people would focus and meditate on to unlock, aspects of meditation. So is it something similar to that?
Well, in a picture, it's 1,000 words, isn't it?
Right.
Like if I said a bird, you could go in 1,001 directions as to what kind of bird you're going to think of right now. One day it could be a wren, another day it could be a crow. You don't know what your brain is going to pop out. But that particular bird that you choose on that particular day is relative to many other things you're thinking about. And when you apply the symbology of the bird to the many things you're thinking about, you've got a whole dynamic of information, on what to do or not do.
Well, it's like the tarot. I mean, like I said, I used to try, do tarot readings, and that, there's so many different meanings within each picture of the tarot. That's why I was always fascinated by it.
Yeah.
And that's how I did my readings. I tried not to have to look at a book. I just go, what am I getting from this image right now? What's the main message I'm seeing? And I just go from there. Yeah. I would do the best readings that way. Don't look at the book.
Yeah, when I started, I had the Marseille pack, and all that was batons and wands and circles and things, so there was nothing. And I remember sitting there with the book, reading that each card meant, and all of a sudden I thought, I can't do this, and I threw it away. And then I looked down, and there they were in my head. I was just reading them. I just channeling the same thing,
One of the best readings I gave was on the fly once for somebody who was interested in all this. I said, all right, well, let me do it with just a deck of cards, just a regular deck of cards. I think I could do that. I understand the meanings of the cards somewhat, but I'll just let it go. And I would just look at like a 4 of clubs, and I would just see an image, like my own original tarot image in my head with the 4 of clubs. And I would just go from that for what meaning I was getting, and I gave one of the best readings I ever gave just using a deck of playing cards, and I'd never done it before. There's no pictures.
No, exactly. And in fact, I was reading people I was in Spain. I had a pack of regular cards there, and I was playing around with them, and somebody came up, and I wasn't teaching, I was just playing, and so next thing I knew, I was telling people take a card, and I was giving them messages. It's the oneness will work with you whatever way you choose, and as long as you're open-minded to it and you overcome your fear of getting a no-no, you're not going to go wrong. But you have to remember you're using the 5 senses. You're using clairvoyance, which is the clear seeing, clairaudience, which is the clear hearing, psychometry, which is the feeling, and clairsentience, which is smell and taste. And so, like you could be telling someone you've got an image of a bird, and suddenly you're smelling the ocean,
Right.
and so you're using all your skills of experiences in this world to do a reading.
Now you've seen worse since you're a child, and you're able to see stuff that other people can't. I've had my own experiences of seeing people's auras. I have talked about a lot on this show as I see little balls of light that fly around at times. I see them flying in and out of people's heads. It just happens here and there, and I see it. I've been seeing it since my 20s. I've had mediums tell me, "Oh, that's a gift from spirit. You can see spirit." I don't know what it is, but I see them, and I'll see them flying around. I'll see them, like I said, a lot of times I see them flying in people's auras. Sometimes they'll burst, and it'll be like a shape, like a triangle or a circle or a face. Even I've seen like a translucent face in people's auras. I don't understand any of it, but I've seen it. I don't know what it means.
Well, you get to a point where you don't need to see it externally. I mean, it is nice when I've been in physical phenomenon situations. I've been the medium where, that I'm in a trance state and I don't see it, but everybody else does. And then I said to Spirit, I want to see what they're seeing. So they allowed me to be in the trance state and out of body, like a spot up in the ceiling, watching what was going on. And I've seen airports where something moves through a wall and a stone pulls on the floor, or scissors disappear, frustrating things. But the ultimate thing is that once you really are proof of the pudding that it's not you, and it's more or less what it's about, you don't need to see it externally. You see it within your head. I don't see much these days at all. I've been seeing balls around me though just lately, but and they told
you see
me
like a
recently,
light spinning around you, like a ball of light that comes like swimming around you. I've seen that.
Yeah. That's a spirit entity. That's how we are.
Is that little ball of light that I see? That's what other mediums tell me, that they're spirits.
Yeah, they're spirits. And so anyway, I was going to say that whatever is going on with us right now, they're showing us that we're united. That people used to say, "How many spirit guides have I got?" And back when we were years ago, "Oh, this and 2 or 3," But now we realize that we have thousands of spirit guides around us. And we're part of a collective consciousness of a soul group, and people are realizing this now. And what Spirit just told me recently is that I'm back where I was as a child when I came into the world. I was one with the holy hosts, and I'm one with the holy hosts again. So I've gone through this jagged journey of all these different things. And so it sounds grandiose if you're being a religious person, but it doesn't mean that. Holy host is just the word that they gave me, so I understood the collective consciousness, the divine all beings of all things that are in the I am state. And it took many ups and downs and disappointments and letdowns to realize that they never let me down. People let me down.
People do. We got to go to our last commercial break. When we come back, phone lines will still be open. You guys can call in with your questions. And I'd like to talk more about the soul groups and understanding what a soul group is, because it's something that fascinates me. I feel there's definitely people in my life. I'm like, yeah, we're definitely in a soul group together. Something about us, our entanglements. All right.
With the other people that I'm looking at.
This is Rob and Jamie. They moderate the chat rooms. These two right here, definitely in my soul group. Definitely in my soul group. He's in Florida. She's in California. I'm in Indiana. But we met over the internet waves. That's the beauty of technology and the internet is meeting these two wonderful people. And I'll let them weigh in when we come back from the commercial break about their ideas about soul groups too. All right, guys, we'll be right back with this short commercial break.
Intercepted a transmission of unknown origin.
Transmission? Out here?
SOS.
Human.
Unknown.
Alien. Certificate X. Exclusive engagement at the Odeon Leicester Square. Now.
Any systematized transmission indicating a possible intelligent origin must be investigated.
In space, no one can hear you scream.
If you are interested in discovering the truth about the paranormal and want to hear from leading researchers in the field, join Justin Brown on his 3 weekly shows named My Paranormal Soapbox, Necromancer Live Show, and the Supernatural Symposium, live on Facebook, YouTube, and interfacediff.net.
This is an APAC studio presentation.
Hi, I'm Barry, owner-operator of Barry's Barometer Barn. Lately, I bet you've been lying awake at night asking yourself, how many barometers do I really need? Well, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we think you need more than one. Otherwise, we're going to go out of business. Remember, at Barry's Barometer Barn, we don't know the meaning of high-pressure sales. Come on, folks, buy another barometer. I'm trying to put my kids through college. I've got a family to support and a secret mistress who isn't cheap.
Visit Barry's Barometer Barn, 000 Storm Drive. Come on, folks, buy a barometer. I'm Barry's older brother, Larry, and every time one of you people walk past the store without coming in, Barry beats me.
This has been a presentation from Tim Morgan's APAC Studio. For more almost professional amateur comic studio content, visit the APAC YouTube channel. Search APAC 2002. That's APAC 2002 on YouTube.
When Alex Gardner is asleep, he has an extraordinary gift. The government wants it, the scientists want it, but to keep it may cost him his life. It might be better if Alex didn't sleep at all, but he cannot resist entering the dreamscape. Can you? See Dreamscape in the West End and all over London now. Certificate 15. It takes an extraordinary adventurer to enter the dreamscape.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from Talkstream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Join us every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time for Weird Wednesday, the live stream, with your hosts Jamie, the Living Dead Girl, and Rob, the Phantom, where we'll talk about all things paranormal, including zodiac, astrology, tarot card and oracle card readings, live ghost boxing and spirit communication, where we'll do voices from beyond the Cold Case Files. So we hope you join us live on Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at midnight Eastern Standard Time. We hope to see you there. Bye-bye.
night is alive. Join us and take a walk on the weird side when you tune in to the Kingdom of Nye, hosted by Heather Wade, the finest in late night talk. Listen live free weeknights starting at 9 p.m. Pacific time at thekingdomofnye.com, talkstreamlive.com, and the Paranormal Radio app. Wanna take a ride?
Since 1948, Fate Magazine has brought you reports of the strange and unknown, all of them true. Fate Radio is carrying on that tradition, bringing you the unusual, macabre, strange, and bizarre. Join host Kat Hopson Sunday nights from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on WBHM Digital Broadcasting.
Heat 'em up. Do, re,
You're listening to Paranormal Soup, bringing you the weird every Sunday night. Call into the show and join the discussion. The call-in lines are 219-230-4444 or 260-225-9419, or by Skype caller ID OOJBland00 or JBland Paranormal Soup. And now to your host, Jason Bland.
Tonight, we're talking to our guest, Dr. Margaret Roger Van Coops. She's teacher of mediums, voice of oneness, author of Donald Trump, The Enigma of Society, Journey into the Unknown, and My Journey into Oneness. We're definitely, like I said, a Paranormal Soup show tonight. Covered a lot of different topics. But it comes to soul groups. We want to get into that more because it's something that's fascinating me. I've people in my life that have come together. I've felt like I've known forever. They're right here in this chat room, right here in the video calls, Jamie and Rob. The beauty of the internet's brought all of us together. Maybe this whole show with you guys in the chat room, all these people that have been coming and watching the show, like Zach that calls in all the time. We're all part of some soul group here coming together. You know, I always say what a wonderful chat room I have. Such open people to different ideas, people that want to hear different concepts and understanding of other people's experiences. We are like one big soul group here, wanting to know about the strange and unusual. Well, if you want to know or you have questions, you can call in. Rob gave out the phone lines. Call into the show with your questions for our guests. Do you want to develop your own mediumistic abilities better? There's a great person to ask is Dr. Margaret. But let's go ahead and get back to our guests. So on the subject of soul groups, you know, how they play a part of our lives, you know, what, for instance, what is a soul group? If you want to explain that to people that might never heard that concept before. I doubt it. If they listen to the show, they've heard it, but give people an idea what a soul group is. Oh, I got to unmute you. Sorry. I'm not used to doing that. Sorry. Here you go. Now you can talk.
Okay. I already knew you were going to ask that question. The Spirit Guides told me to show you this. This is my latest book.
The Light Side of Oneness.
The Light Side of the Oneness. And the one that came out before that, which is when my husband died, is The Dark Side. Okay? And they said you were going to ask this, so they told me to show you. The dark side is about the dark side of our nature. How and it's also about the lower levels of evolution in the oneness. So you learn about how in the beginning was one cell forms that came into different evolutions to become many different species. So it's particularly related to humans in this case. So that's the dark side. Now, the light side, this is why I wanted to come back to your question earlier on. We are in the vein of the COVID and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the evolution of the 3,500 great ages of the Piscean age and Aquarian age. So what we're looking at is the end of the Piscean age is the dark side here, where we're all looking at negativity, we're looking at what's wrong. And we're looking at history, and we're looking at where we've been and the many forms that we've done and so on. But the light side, this one, I'm showing it up again. See how she's meditating? We got these angels and energy coming down.
Yeah.
Well, basically, I found that, and I really like that because it gives the impression of what I was trying to do, which is what Spirit taught me, is we are looking at ascended masters up here. We're down here. We're saying we're trying to ascend to be with them. But what's actually happening is as we ascend, they descend, right? Until we come to a moment in time where we're absolutely able to see one another. Now, it's not just on one level. It's going on up here and down in steps and stages. So right now, great sages of the oneness, shall we say, are coming down into embodiment in different ways as aliens or as animals or whatever they need to be. And at the same time, we're aspiring, we're climbing up, we're leaving a lot of the earthly ways behind. So we're swapping over positions. And so when we go into the Aquarian age, what we're looking at is under the vibration of Haniel. And when we look back through the different ages in the past, the great ages that we know about, we're looking at Raphael, Gabriel, Michael, and now it's Haniel's turn. But there's still Barakiel and Faniel, and we've got Zaphiel, who's always been present in all the times. And here I want to say that Zaphiel is the unification of the other six. The other six, they have different connotations, as in my book, The Way to Oneness, okay, what they do. But Zaphiel had to put it all together into form. And unfortunately, to this day, people think that Zaphiel is the devil.
Yeah.
Word for it. And I wanted to share here, because they told me to share it, was that I was in New York years ago in my 40s, and I was doing a channeling, and Jesus came through me and spoke to the people, and they all felt healing and so on and so forth. And then apparently I went out of that and I went into Zaphiel, and Zaphiel came and spoke to them. And, was saying how he was the light bearer and all these different things and so on. And that he was no longer going to carry the burden of the negativity and the blame and shame of mankind, that we should take responsibility for the negativity that we create. Well, there was one woman apparently who got up as soon as he said, having given this great message, he then said, "You know me as the devil, and Lucifer." Well, actually, Lucifer is not even his name, because that was in a play.
Right.
Someone wrote in the 20s. But he did that. Well, one woman got out and she left. She said aloud something about, "I can't handle it." I don't remember this, is what other people told me, because I was nuts. And after it was all done, they had, because I was a guest speaker and so on, they had another room where they had champagne and stuff to celebrate my arrival or something. I don't remember much about it. I didn't drink champagne, but she came up to me and she apologized. And I said, "What are you apologizing for?" And then she told me she'd walked out. And I said, "Well, what happened?" She said, I couldn't accept that Lucifer and Zaphiel were the same person. And what followed was I gave her this little talk about we are all ascended and we're all descended. And that's basically what you're getting out of the light side of the oneness. We have the higher part and we have the lowest part. We've all lived in the evilest of dirtiest of ways and means to be that you could imagine as an existence. And then we've all been up here spiritually flying free and manifesting and creating. And now we're coming down with these two ages. We're coming into unity, and there are many different spirits on different levels of doing it, up here and down here. So this transformation between the Piscean age, the great Piscean age, and the great Aquarian age is a very important period in the evolution of the oneness.
And this is what you said take 200 years for us to kind of go through, like from this point on?
Yeah, because we got to understand we are the dark and light, and we can be neutral. Okay, we can have these moments when we say, "I get you," and together we get it, and together we can do it, and together we can build it and create it. And for example, as I said, you know, if we had the dollar and the mark and all these things, the same value, there's no arguing. It's like it costs the same, you know. That's just a simple way of saying economy, but it's got to be on every level of our being. And these kids that are being born now, they're coded with this. They're coded to look for the unity in whatever is created by them in the future. And they're all going to be dealing with ascended masters in their everyday consciousness, guiding them and helping them and understanding. So here's the big kicker. You can't lie. Because
That's a hard one for people.
Everybody will know you're lying. I mean, my kids used to come and tell me lies, you know, and I'd stand there and I'd see all these little red things coming out of their aura, and I'd say, "Stop lying." And they'll say, "No, I'm not lying." And the more red, I say, "I can see all your red balls are coming out. You're lying."
Is it like red little streaks that come out?
Yeah, little red balls.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're lying.
That's interesting you say that. So that's a sign somebody's lying. See, I don't understand what I see. I see these stuff, but I don't know what the meaning of it is.
They're lying. Yeah.
I've always had had an innate sense of when people are lying to me too.
Pain is also red balls, but you
Yeah.
know, when they come to the edge of the aura, they explode, right? And the thing about lying and negativity is it goes into the walls. Now, for example, England is so haunted. You know, I did a lot of clearing of haunted houses. And you know, it was one place I was staying in that was going back to the 1400s. I won't bore you with the detail, but I was lying there all night listening to arguments, real shouting and violent, you know, stuff going on that I couldn't wait till the sun came up so I could get outside and go and sleep on the lawn because, you know, it's pitch black and cold winter and I needed some warmth.
Yeah.
You know? I was sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag in this room. And, you know, I went back into that place later and cleared it, you know, and people were saying, "Wow, it feels so different." I said, "Yeah, because it was, you know, it wasn't haunted. The people who had lived there are long gone. They're in the spirit world. It was the memories that were energy in the bill." Yeah. And people don't realize they move into a new house and they wonder why they're unhappy. You have to do feng shui or whatever it is you're into to bless the house. My son moved into a new house and there'd been a young boy who'd been paralyzed who died in that house. And the first thing he asked me to do was to go there with crystals and while it was empty and do all the blessing and clear the house of the negativity. Right. And people need to realize that they are influenced by other people's negativity. So you need to close down your chakras. If you go into a place, and no people don't even know they've got chakras, which are vortices of energy that hold your 5 bodies together, which is physical, etheric, spirit, higher mind, and soul body. And so I'm just being quickly here, but Spirit was saying I need to get this across to people listening that they need to know they have self-preservation and protection within their aura that they can pull upon. And so if they feel they're in a negative scenario, and I had a couple just recently who came to me, they thought it was they brought somebody into their home because it's new to them. And I said, no, it's coming from your neighbor. And they're in a complex where all the houses, you know, one of these places where they're all, sort of singles and things are joined together. So they asked me to clear it, and they thought I was going to go there and do the salt thing and this and that. And I said, no, I can do it remotely. And so I've been doing that. But, you know, when I got to the bottom of it, the whole area is a vortex of negativity. And so I ended up having to clear the whole area and neutralize it. And we can do that if we understand we have the power of divine love to spread that into the darkness and transform it. So we get this balance where it becomes neutral. Now, at that point, you hope that the people living there are going to be positive. Because if they're arguing again, they're going to rebuild the negativity again. So I'm often teaching people, think before you open your mouth. Don't think negatively. Turn it around and see the good parts of what the test is. Because, you know, there's friction in negativity and there's friction in positivity. We get overjoyed and overexcited. That could be in the wars too. So I just thought I had to share that, if you don't mind.
No, it makes a lot of sense. And, you know, I have a, you know, you talk about chakras and that. I have a thing where if somebody's really angry with me or there's violence involved or somebody's really real negative, like I get sick to my stomach. Like I just get sick to my stomach. I've gotten that around people that I shouldn't have. They've given me no verbal cue or anything of the sort that they're bad news or violent or hate me or anything like that. Don't give me verbal cue, but I'm sick to my stomach. And I come out finding later, I was right on, you know, with those people. You know, when they talk about trusting your gut, I think that goes back to something like that. You know, I get that. I get nauseous. I've never been able to handle violent situations very well. I can feel people's energy. I was the kid in the lunchroom that never stood up when kids were fighting. When everybody would stand up and go, "Oh, the fight's going on," I'd be like getting sick to my stomach. I'd be like, I'm done eating, you know, because I could it'd come off to me like waves. I could feel it. So, you know, when people say they feel energy or all that, I'm like, I'm right there because I get it. When there's negative fighting and arguing, I get sick to my stomach.
Yeah, well, you know, when you feel that, you should be pulling in your solar plexus and closing down the solar plexus area.
So I'm not taking that in.
When we go to, say, do a driving test, we get all collywobbles there. You know, will I win or not? You know, that means that you're open. You need to pull the abs in and visualize. You know, the whole thing about chakras is do it muscularly. Crown chakra, close. Okay, frown, swallow. Breathe in and out, close, pull your tummy muscles in, close, pull your base in, close, squeeze them together down there. Here, this is what, I'm going to stand up for a minute. Again, look at my, here. This is your spleen chakra. Now, people don't know it's there. They keep telling you it's down, you know, in the lower sacred center, which I have to stand up again, is down here. And your higher sacred center is over your thymus. These are where your puberty, you know, your womanhood is and your manhood is, and this is where your thymus gland is. And so people get all these things wrong. But coming back to spleen chakra, there's a double helix in there. Okay, so higher self comes in from the back to the front, and lower self comes in the front to the back. So these are dynamics that do this all the time. And right in there is all your major organs. So if you're not balanced emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually in your 5 bodies that make up your aura, then you're going to have maladies that are going to develop and you're going to be ill. So I spend a lot of time. And how do you balance it? Well, what does mummy do with a baby? She rocks the baby.
Right.
And so if you put your hands there and you rock. Now, for the actual here, you make a circle like this, and you can do it backwards and forwards like this, okay?
Yeah.
And you do it as fast as you can, and you get hot right in the middle of your solar plexus. When you get hot, then you know you've got the spleen chakra balanced.
See, that's really interesting. See, I've never taken any classes in this or done anything, but I've had experiences with chakras, pressure and the swirling in my head or the swirling on top of my head. But when you talk about that, like the motion, I've done meditation. I got into meditation just on my own, self-taught, you know, just trying to like focus, center and all that. I do this thing where I feel myself spinning, like my whole body spins, and it'll end with that warmness down in here. So that makes you wonder.
That's good that you're doing it, but it's because you're in a sort of tranquil meditational space. But imagine you're down in the shops, and there's a woman with 3 babies, and they're all playing her up, and she's angry and uptight, and you're standing behind her in line to pay for your groceries. You need to be closing down. And so this physical thing, you do it physically because your brain has learned when you're a baby. Physical means I know it. Okay, so you do it physically and you do it 21 times, it becomes a habit. Okay, and then you just do it. While you're standing there. You just pull all your muscles in and do it. And
I need to
and
learn
keep
that. No, I've always
balance.
something I always wanted to learn. I always felt it's like a problem, to have, I feel like I have like empathy, like I feel things like from people, like I get feelings in that. I feel like I have one thing is empathy. I can like, somebody tells me their life story, I really get into it. Like I really feel for them. There's a connection there. If anything, I'm empathic if I have a psychic ability. But I always feel like, am I too open? When I have these experiences, when I get so sick from people, from their negative thoughts, it makes me sick. I don't want that. I need to shut that off. I need to shut that down. That's not a good thing.
So just do that.
Okay.
And like I said, rocking is a way of comforting yourself and also rebalancing the auric emanation. But then you need to do the spinning of the chakra to rebuild it. Because, the way to think of a chakra is it's a cone. It's wide at the front, that big, and at the back it's probably that big, smaller.
Right.
So it's like a megaphone, and within it is a central core, small, and then around it are other cores. Okay, and as the base one has 3 for mind, body, and spirit, and the central core. But as you come up, by the time you get into the crown, there are 7 major cores that come all the way down. But there are 144 mini spinning tops in your crown chakra. So you have to know that you've got to be all balanced all the way through. I'm 78. I'm not looking for compliments, but people tell me all the time they think I'm in my 50s.
No, I get that all. No. So you can ask my wife, and that I've been getting that for years. I'm 41. I mean, I just had some women think I was 15 years old the other day, a week ago. I'm like, I mean, and the mask thing helps, but I look at all my friends from like, that I went to grade school with and high school with, and I see them now. I'm like, and I've gotten some dirty looks from some of them because they've aged. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I have not aged like a lot of the other people I've known. I don't know if that's because I did a lot ever since my 20s. I've done a lot of, not as much now with kids. It's been harder, but I did a lot of meditation. I before I knew what chakras were, I was feeling like the whole crown chakra, the spinning wheel. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I thought I was losing my mind. Like I thought something was medically wrong with me. And then somebody pointed out, well, that's your chakras. And I started doing research on chakras. I'm like, well, that is totally what I'm feeling. Like you can almost feel the little spinning wheels and stuff. You can feel the pressure in the wheel, the energy turning. It's the weirdest sensation. I had no idea about any of that when it started with me.
Well, it's exactly the same as me. When all that started for me when I was young, I didn't know, but I'm so telepathic with everyone and could hear them talking to me. I still, I could be doing something at the sink and they'll just suddenly say something and I go, okay, right, I'm having a conversation. Sometimes I talk out loud, but you get used to it. And as I tell people, they say, who did you study with? And I say, the Oneness. I studied nursing, I studied psychology and psychiatry, those things as my foundation stone. I went to a damn good school in England, so because the background, got to go to good school. So I had all my anatomy and physiology at that school. I was studying it because I knew what I wanted to be. So even by the time I went nursing, I already knew everything they were teaching because teach you in school. And so by the time I'm 21, I've got what I need. And then from there, Spirit took over and I've just evolved over the years with them. And they're my teachers. So no, I haven't, got thousands of exams and hours with people teaching me how to be psychic or anything. I've always been teaching other people.
I feel like most of the things I know have like come to me intuitively, like just, stuff I've done or learned. I find out later, oh no, that's this. I'm like, well, that just came to me,
Right. But
even
don't
like
say intuitive anymore to yourself. It's a good direction to realize. Say, I am connected and I'm talking to them. And the more you say that, then you're giving them permission. As long as you're just saying, I'm intuitive, but I don't know who's doing it. But if you start talking to them, you say, okay, you're in my head. Who are you? And don't be a doubting Thomas. Like, well, if they say they're like Socrates, I know. That's what I'm saying to you. If it was, say, Socrates, don't say, me. Just say, oh, that's interesting. What do you want to tell me? the first time Socrates came to me was, he didn't come all the time. He just popped in now and again. I was sitting, I think it's in my book too, but it's an interesting little story. I was sitting on a log reading a book, escaping from my negative family up in the common land where it was nice. And I looked down and I suddenly realized I was sitting on an ant nest and I got ants crawling up my legs. And I was just about to jump up in horror. And there he is. He says, no, stay put. And the first thing he said was, be still. And as soon as I was still, these ants started to just wander off my legs. And so I knew that his energy was helping me. And then he made me watch them. And he was talking to me and he was saying, every ant has a position within the colony. Some are hunters, some are protectors, some are nurturers in the nursery, and so on and so on. And I didn't even know about ant farms. We didn't have all that.
Right.
And then having given me all that information, it seemed like forever he was teaching me. Then he said, and now you understand what humans are like. Some are warriors, they go out and fight. Some are collectors, and some of them are, healers and whatever, and.
But there's something interesting. What you're saying there is, I mean, we're getting close to the end here, but is giving them permission, like your intent and permission, to open up that kind of communication. So if I stop looking at it as just my intuitiveness is to say, no, I am communicating with someone or something, and open up to that is what you're saying. Give it permission to talk.
If you have a good feeling that the energy is good, then say, hello, I sense you're here. Who are you? What's your name? They'll give you a name because they recognize that you need a name. For example, when Siddhartha first came to me, he came into my consciousness as an Australian named Sid. And then
But we're talking about Siddhartha Buddha, right? Buddha?
Yeah. So I was sitting in a trance circle with some older people than me, who were insisting that I be with them. And so he was speaking to me as Sid with an Australian accent. And then time went by, about 2 years later, or 3 maybe, I don't know, time goes by. And suddenly I've got this Cockney speaking, his name's Arthur. And time went by, so I had Sid and Arthur, and they would come and go, and they both had different personalities and character. And then, I don't know, months, years, something goes by, and one day I'm sitting meditating, and I go into this Hindu kind of thing. And next thing I know, he says, I am Sid, I am Arthur, Sid, Arthur, Siddhartha.
Yeah.
And then, he starts to teach me the philosophy of the Hindu thing at the time, and then into the other aspects as well. And then I had the Buddhic way and so on, and there are just so many things that they can teach you when you surrender, and you just listen and ask questions, and they have the patience of all time because they're not in a hurry, and they know when you're ready to learn. They wouldn't come otherwise, Well,
it's really, really fascinating. Before we run out of time, I want you to be able to get out your information again to the audience, where they can find your work, and what you want to give out your website and all that.
Okay. Well, as I said, Katie Kanapmari is rebuilding them right now, so there's not any up at the moment, but there will be easypeasysolutions.org, where we're going to be doing free talks on the relationships, because there's so many different types of relationships, and people are stuck at home, dealing with relationships.
Yeah, testing relationships.
Yeah. So we're doing that for free, and we hope to get that going soon. She's working diligently, as she always does. And then we're also working on, I've just given her the text for Universal Christchurch, which is the umbrella under which I function. And I'm now head pastor because my husband was, and I have to admit that most of the pastors, it was started in the 1970s, have passed, and I'm busy training younger ones. But you have to remember that people don't want church services like they do. So I'm training people to be minister practitioners. That means they can do everything but do a service. And those who come out of, from a minister practitioner, they can counsel and do all the paranormals where there's normal psychological. We teach them everything. And those are mostly Japanese students right now.
Really? Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I taught a lot of Japanese people. So that's that. So then we got universalchristchurch.com. We got SumarisEducationCenter.com. We've got easypeasysolutions.com, and we got askdrmargaret.com. So
that's a lot of .com.
Yeah, this is what she's working on. Yeah.
Well, I definitely would like to have you back on the show again in the future. I mean, you're a wonderful guest. Like I said, perfect for Paranormal Soup because we go down a lot of different topics. It was an amazing show tonight to have you on. Thank you so much, Dr. Margaret.
Thank you. I would like to have talked to the other people I see on the screen, but
yeah, Rob and Jamie are sometimes the silent factor, but they're in the chat rooms, moderating the chat rooms, talking to people there. But
thank you for being there.
But definitely part of my soul group. As I say, that's a beautiful thing about technology is bring people together. We would have never met without technology. And they're two of my best friends. So, and if I believe in soul groups, I definitely believe these two guys, we were brought together for a purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
5 years later.
I appreciate that.
All right, guys, that's it for the show. We will be back next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, with a returning guest, Nick Redfern, to talk about his newest book that I'm reading, The Martians. Talk about Mars, life on Mars. Is there life on Mars? Nick believes so. I believe so, too. We're going to talk about that next Sunday, same bad time, same bad channel, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Central, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks to everybody who shares out the show and tells everybody about Paranormal Soup. You can now find Paranormal Soup. You'll find me, Jason Bland, at Parler. I know a lot of you guys have left Facebook. Totally understand. We are on Parler if you're there. MeWe, I got an account on MeWe. Of course, it's just under my name, Jason Bland. Look it up there. We're sharing the shows there. That's where you're going. But we're still live on Facebook and YouTube. And check us out on the Paranormal Radio app. Again, thanks to everybody who shares the show. And thank you to the Patreons. You help pay the bills. It's sorely needed. I don't make money, but they pay half the bills for this show because this stuff costs money. So thank you to all my patrons that donate $2 a month. Thank you again. All right, guys. See you next week. Have a great night.